I'm wearing your headset.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up your headset.
You're fine.
Well, I mean, just
Okay, start saying hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
And you're live on both things. We'll play this real quick.
Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Thank you, KMMU, and thank you all of you who are tuning in tonight. Jared is not going to be joining us tonight. He's been called in, and it's just me. So I am Holly Crowley Rayboni, and I am your host for Political Head Trauma, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it would sound something like this, homina, homina. I'm very excited tonight because we are going to welcome, as many of you may not know, I have recently stepped down as the Tooele County Republican Party chair after 9 years. And in order to pursue a dream of running for office myself and going to the state house. So in order to do that, I needed to make sure I stepped down, and in my place, the interim chair, and actually the chair is now Kevin Macho, who is my dear friend and someone who was elected this last April, May, and he will be taking over as party chair. And of course, Christina Branham, who is our party secretary, she is still going to maintain her role, and Mike Stewart is our treasurer, and the members of the SEC. But for me, just in order for optics, we don't have a rule officially that says that someone running for office has to step down. But for optics, I didn't want it to look like I could possibly be playing favorites or anything. Now, for all of you Republicans in Tooele County, just so that you know, the team you have elected is extraordinary. They're working extremely hard to get us prepared for caucus, and everything will be great. And I'll make sure of that any way I can. And I know our current electeds and candidates will find many reasons to get in front of you. So it is my appeal to you to consider running as a state delegate this year in our caucus system. And caucus is March 17th. And it will be, locations are going to be all over the county. Just go to utah.gov and you can figure out what your precinct is. And we'll get you the information as it comes up. And what's really cool is that in our county, we always do caucus training nights, and we're going to have multiple of them. So if there's one night you just want to know what it is to be a delegate, to be a precinct chair, caucus in general, this is a night where you can come and get all of that information. And if one night doesn't work, if the other night works, we'll get you there.
Everybody, sorry.
Hey,
Got to go to work. No, you're fine. So just giving her a quick class so she can manage this. When you're done, you're pushing this button. See where it's at? Right there.
And straight.
Yep, that's it. All right, I'm going to set her up. Here's your comments right there. You've already got people. Hey, good to see you. Holly, you look great. Everyone have a good night. I'm going to go.
Thank you, William. You be safe out there. Say a prayer for me. Yeah, stay warm. It was actually a beautiful day today. I have to say, 45 degrees or something. It's been so below freezing these last couple of days. I don't know. So this is a first for me, folks. I have never run a show by myself. So I ask for some grace, please. And the lights are a little bright. So just to go over things, we wanted to talk about a number of different things. We've got Trump and Greenland. We've got Venezuela and the effects there. We've got a lot going on with ICE and the situation in Minnesota, which has kind of taken the actual spotlight off of the fraud that was discovered in Minnesota. And I understand that there will be more videos coming out that's going to get into it, but more states have been under investigation now, and we expect that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm pretty sure California has got lots of explaining to do, as well as other states that have also fallen into this realm of NGOs and getting disguised under tax dollars, getting those tax dollars, and then it gets funneled back into campaigns later on, campaigns that are usually blue. But I think any state, red or blue states, all up for grabs to get this figured out. There is no reason out there that any one of us should have to be worried about fraud, waste, and abuse of our tax dollars, yet we know it exists. We know that it has been going on for probably as long as our government has been our government in some way, shape, or form. And enough is enough. We are taxed in every aspect of our lives, every single one. From cradle to grave, we are taxed. And I think it's about time that we, as a community of voters from both sides, all sides, I don't want to say both sides because we do have other parties at work. All of us, we need to have full transparency where our tax dollars are going. This is our country. Government works for us, and we need to remind them of that. The only positive way to do that is by getting engaged and knowing. And for a 23-year-old YouTuber to decide to do a story that became one of the most watched YouTube videos of all time, I mean, he is just climbing over the Minnesota fraud, going to childcare places that have no children, healthcare places, home health care, where he's not allowed inside. And hundreds of these locations exist across Minnesota. And he goes there and does these videos, and he's done more than any of our mainstream media investigative journalists have done. So kudos to him. And in fact, Tim, I like to call him Tampon Tim, because that was his big thing when he was running for his office and coming out as vice president with Kamala Harris. The governor, he's ridiculous. And thankfully, I think these videos have caused him to decide not to run again. Now, whether he fills out his whole term, that is another story. And I have to say, folks, if you are like me, you're tired of hearing about the waste, fraud, and abuse, and hearing about the culprits of such waste, fraud, and abuse, and seeing nobody be held accountable. Hold back your taxes, or better yet, miss a payment on your taxes, and see what happens to you, to any of us. We have got the full power of the IRS on top of us as citizens for missing anything, for miscalculating, for not claiming. They are on us. But we have famous electeds, or just electeds in general, that are perpetrating these frauds, and there's nothing happening to them. That should make every one of us angry. It does. I know that. The people that I've spoken with that are involved in know what's going on, they really are furious, and they want to see some real accountability and prosecution. And I hope that this Trump administration is going to do that. I think every single state needs to be investigated, including our own. I think we need to know where we're at. Not that I think that we have this fraud going on like Minnesota or California or Washington. I just think that it's got to be everywhere, right? They have figured out how to manipulate the tax dollars in a way that benefits the Democrat Party. And if it's benefiting the Republican Party as a Republican, someone who loves the party, who has given so many years of my life, my time, my energy, my money to the party, I still want the party investigated if need be and people to be held accountable. What's good for you, what's good for me should be good for them. And they should be held to that same standard. And as far as tonight goes, I'm excited to introduce you. On at 6:30, you're going to meet with Kevin Macho, who is taking over my position as chair and leading us forward into the upcoming year. Because I don't have a sidekick tonight, I look to you. So for your comments, let me know what we want to discuss. And if you like, let's get into it, folks. This is so important. It's an important time in our lives, and it's an important time for our kids. We got midterms coming up we need to focus on. And remember, you've got so much going on in the federal government right now where the president is concerned. And with what's happening with, Venezuela and the oil and how it affects China, how it affects Russia, Iran, India. These are big, big countries, and we are walking with a big stick right now. Our president is definitely, he may not have the respect of those countries, but he certainly has their attention. That is great. And I know some of you are mad at the president, or you don't support him, or you don't support certain aspects of what he's doing. And I can appreciate that. I'm not a toe the line president for the president all the time. It's not me. I absolutely understand that he's going to do things that are not part of my conservative views or values. But what I can say, I would vote for him 1,000,000 times again instead of the alternative, which was Kamala Harris. Because I don't think our country could survive another 4 years the way it was going. Now, it took 4 years to get us into this mess. So 1 year in, I expect we, the people, should be feeling the results of the changes that Trump is trying to implement. And there are so many of them, and they're affecting all different parts of our life. So I think we give him grace and we give him time, as well as stay on top of the issues that are affecting your daily life. So that's where I say, turn off your national news and get engaged with your local news. Get engaged with your local political structure. Because you know this, I mention it every time on the show, but the people who have their hands deep in your pockets are local. So understand who you vote for affects your life far more than who you vote for federally. And I'm talking down to the localist level. And with that in mind, I like to remind all of you who may have attended your local school board meetings this past year and watched as many school boards across this state tried to do big tax hikes. And if your school district is anything like ours, where you've got very low test scores and you've got terrible teacher morale, then watching a room full of people, hundreds of people, stand up and argue against this tax hike, and then watching them slap them in the face with a vote to raise it anyway, to me, that was extremely, extremely telling. And I'm not forgetting that anytime soon. And I hope you are not forgetting that anytime soon. They have seats up for re-election this year. Get to know who's running for school board in your area. Get to know them personally and find out how they vote. Because that race should be partisan, in my opinion. We should know what type of platform they follow. In Utah, we like conservative principles. We like family-oriented principles. We like the government to leave us alone. And in rural Utah especially. And that's something that every one of us should know about a person before we allow them to take 75% of our property tax. And yet they'll sit back and blame counties, county electeds. They'll sit back and blame the state electeds and say, well, we have to do this, or the county is raising my taxes, or the state requires that this goes up. There are things in place. Yes, the county's responsible for your roads, for your snow removal, for energy, everything you can imagine. Yes, the county is partially involved, and so is your local cities. But for your taxes, your property tax, it is the school boards that get the majority of your money. They're not producing a product that's getting any better. If you could see that your kids were well educated, if you could see that your teachers were being treated well and they're making an affordable wage, I don't even want to say the word affordable because that's relative, right? What's affordable to you may not be affordable to me, but a teacher should be able to have their classroom totally ready for the school year. They should have the tools they need for the children to learn. They should be able to write their lesson plan and show the children or the young adults the vision they have for the topic and get them excited, because excited kids will get a lot more far educationally than kids who are bored. And I think a lot of teachers find themselves not able to have resources to even excite kids with whatever it is. I mean, my kids have a history teacher at their school who really makes learning the Constitution and the need for the Constitution so cool that my kid comes home from school, both my kids had her, they come home from school excited to talk about the Constitution and the things that she did in school. Now, those type of things aren't necessarily affordable to schools. So teachers go out of their own pocket to make sure those things can be done for the purpose of a lesson that is going to really touch the child and have them learn something. Not only learn something, but be able to test on that thing and hold on to it forever. It's been a couple years since my kid has taken her class, and he can still tell me all the cool things. It's stuck with him. And each of us all know a teacher out there that really stuck with you. Because teachers are the reason our lives are doable as adults. Boys and girls that learn to read, who can do math, who can have critical thinking skills, that is exactly what you need as an adult. To be a functioning adult is exactly what we're trying to do with education. To provide kids and to someday make them part of the workforce that is going to maintain their lives and their prosperity. So everything starts at school. And you don't have a real choice. You have to send your kid to school. But at the same time, homeschooling is becoming popular again. Because I think there is a mentality that has infiltrated our rural school districts, our bigger popular city school districts. And the mindset isn't that these are young adults that you parent. They belong to everybody. And that is the socialist mindset. And these children have all these years to get ready to be adults. And many of them are graduating and they're not ready for basics, especially, reading in young boys. The statistics are bad, and then going on to college. A lot more males aren't attending college, or they're not learning. Now, college isn't for everybody. In fact, trade schools are absolutely where we need to focus a lot of attention in this country, because those trades are so needed and will be. They will be. Even though AI may take a lot of jobs, trades are going to be necessitized. Like we need people to learn trades and to do trades. So I just want to thank you. I think that as we go on with figuring out, and I know our legislators are thinking this through, I just think you should reach out to a legislature if you think that these districts' seats should be partisan. And I say this meaning they should tell you what party they vote with, what platform they follow. And recently, not too recently, but recently our state school board turned partisan. And I believe that was Governor Cox and for great reason. Pretty soon we have school board members coming to our Meet the Candidate nights, and our people are getting in line to meet them and find out what their values are and really get to the issues of the hard topics that affect our schools and the education. And the people vote with a lot more understanding of who they're voting for. Many of us don't even know the school district representative that is yours. They seem to stay under the radar. And I have to say, as the many years of chair that I've served, only one candidate has ever come to me and asked to be involved as she was running for school board, and that was Camille Knutson. And she wanted to get in and meet our voters and find out what values they had and what they wanted for the school. And she won her race, and she was exceptional. And I think that is what is so important. Now, if people argue there shouldn't be a partisan race, I would argue back, well, neither should the sheriff. Neither should your county clerk. Those are two offices, law enforcement and elections, that shouldn't have a lean either way of what side they choose. But then I turn back and say, listen, those offices are in charge of large budgets. Those offices are in charge of your tax dollars, your voting abilities, transparency. And that is why I think it is so important to know the platform that these electeds will fall under and that they believe in. Because the way people are going to spend your money, the way people are going to fight for free and transparent elections that are wide open and you know exactly what's going on, those people, how they view the world should matter. So if you believe that, if you don't, it's fine. I get it. But for someone who's been in partisan races for so long, I think there is something to be said about, one, knowing who it is you're voting for, what they believe in, and especially if they have access to your kids. I'm not talking about teachers. I'm talking about districts that make the rules and spend the money, your money, for your kids. So with that in mind, these important elections coming up, and our party in the county is going to work to make sure we know who these people running for school board are and hope you can get to know them. And Jared and I would love to have them on the show. And I implore you, if you are not in the county, but you are in Utah or any state for that matter, reach out to your school board members. Find out what they're running on, what their beliefs are. And I know all across this state, if it wasn't for the Utah State Tax Commission to come in and stop their ability to tax us that tax hike this last year, we would be paying it now. And it would have really, really affected families who don't have any more to give. They bought their homes for a price. They're getting told what the price is worth now, and they're paying on those unrealized gains to make our schools better. And if it's not making them better, if our test results aren't going up and our teachers are miserable, those things happen together. Then we need to know what it is we're paying for, and we need to decide who it is that's going to be making those decisions. So I ask you all to get involved. So I'm going to read some comments now on YouTube. So William, hi guys, nice to see you again. William, hi. Thank you. Thank you, William. And greetings to Jared. If you are just tuning in now, Jared got called into work and he has thrown me in this fire pit that I am trying to survive in. So I appreciate any grace you will give me. I am running the systems, and this is normally what he does as the producer. So I've never produced a show. I've always had somebody doing that for me. So this is new to me. I appreciate you just bearing with me here. William says, Holly, let me tell you, the U.S. never ceases to amaze me and how wonderful it is despite the problems it may have. You're absolutely right, William. And I hope people understand who are watching that though we have our issues with this country and with our fellow states and with a lot of the policy, there is no greater country to live in my opinion, than this beautiful country. And I feel blessed every day to be here. And I believe in hope. Sometimes Jared will get down on that, and I get it, because a lot of times we're seeing our hope kind of get diminished when we see over and over and over people are not being held accountable, or the Constitution is not being given. It's not being used for what it was used for. And so I complain about the policy, but I do love this country. And I know many of us do. And as American citizens, we also have the right to challenge our government. And we should. We should. And that starts during elections. And I know elections can get exhausting, and figuring out who to vote for can be exhausting. And that's why it's so important to read the platforms of the parties that are in your area that are asking for your vote. And really, it starts with the party platforms. If you believe in, small government and the Constitution and the right to bear arms and free speech, and you believe in, the right to life, these things, the Republican Party best matches your principles. If you believe that the government shouldn't be involved in your life at all, and that you should be able to do what you like as long as you're not hurting someone, and all of those, principles, which, I like that a lot too. But that's libertarians. Republicans also have a very large emphasis in our platform over God, and having God be part of our party. And, as does the Constitution and the Declaration. So wherever your principles are, find your party that best speaks to your principles and go from there. Reach out to your local party leadership and find out what events they're having and how they're going to introduce you to candidates. William says, I'm saying this because not long ago I found out that in your beautiful state of Utah, the 2027 NHL Winter Classic will be played, and it will be the first time it's held outdoors there. I did not know that. I didn't know that. So yay for Utah. We certainly have amazing facilities, and we did have the Olympics in 2002, and we are having them again. And I think we're one of the only places that not only prepared for the Olympic Games, but we've maintained the structures from 2002 and have continued to keep those structures up and running, so that we were a perfect candidate actually to host the games again. So that is cool. Go Utah Mammoth. Excellent. William says, I'm absolutely in favor of the importance of learning about constitutional matters from school education. And then I've got JR. I'm not sure by the handle, so tell me your name if you want. Hey there, Holly. Where is Jared? Party with just Holly today? Education in America really matters. Yes, and the party is with just me today. We do have a guest coming up at 6:30, and that will be Kevin Macho. And he says, let's go, Holly, woohoo. Always follow where the money goes when it comes to elected officials. I agree, but I think it also, when it comes to policy, because you can have elected officials doing everything in their power. You got to remember, elected officials are just like everyday people. I know this because I am asking now to be elected. I am not a good politician. I am not. I know that I don't know what I don't know. And I'm learning every day. I'm always learning. What I do know is that I want to do better. I want to keep momentum going in the House seat that I'm running for. And actually, Bridger Bollinger has got incredibly huge shoes to fill. He has done amazing things for rural Utah. And he has been a champion of our county, of Millard County, of Juab County. And I don't know how I could ever do better. I would like to keep his momentum going, but everybody starts somewhere and they see a seat that they say, my goodness, I want to do more. and I believe I can do better, or I can do something different. And that's how they start. And especially your local electeds, they come in and they want to do better. So I don't think they go in with any thoughts or plans to make you mad or to make money in any way. These jobs don't pay well. I'm here to tell you they're not. I think your campaign costs are more than you make in a year. And I think what they want to do is make a difference, and they are just like you and me, and they look back in Utah. You have this beauty of caucus where you don't have to be rich to run for office here. I mean, that is the goal, that a common person can decide to put their name in the ring and run. Through the caucus system, they get to work with delegates, and the delegates choose whether they go on to the primary election. And then people can donate to campaigns and really help out a candidate. And as they hopefully go on to win the primary and go on to the general, and the elections get expensive. But folks go into this because they love their county, their community, and at least the electeds in our county. I really love the people that have gone in and have served well and are continuing to serve. So I think that policy is especially important, because what happens is that people find ways around policy. People with nefarious intent can find ways, and policy is sometimes written for that very fact, that there's another way to get funding from A to B with a little stop for their own personal agenda. And that could go just to campaigns. That could go into the pockets of many people, as we're seeing in Minnesota. I think that we have to fight, we have to go really get to know what's going on policy wise. And Utah's state, our state legislature is meeting, and they're going to be in session for 6 weeks up at the Hill. So many bills, folks, so many bills. It's hard for any one person to actually understand all of it. And then not just that, but to really understand each bill that is being proposed, pros, cons, what it actually means. So it's a lot of work, and we depend on our electeds to understand it and to maybe explain it to us. And that's if they have, voting say on this bill. So our Senator is Scott Sandel, and we reach out to him often. He's very good at letting us know what's going on. Bridger Bolander and Nicolene Peck, excellent representatives who have been so helpful in letting us understand what those bills mean, as well as the bills they're putting forward and the reason for that. I actually am big on deregulation. I would love to see more bills that get rid of a lot of regulation in this state. We are one of the best ran states in the nation. We've got that going for us. Our governor has been adamant about getting economic development here for us and getting higher paid jobs here, and also protecting the values that Utahns share. So, and not just him, but he's a reflection. You've got the legislators, and all those people up on the Hill are just regular people. There's no special anything that gets a person to say, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be judged or hated by a lot of people, but I'm also going to be appreciated by others. It's a really tough thing. And so I applaud anyone who puts their name in to run for office. It's never an easy thing, and they win. That also isn't easy. But I applaud that people want to do something, and they want to do it well. And I appreciate that, William, because learning and understanding the Constitution from an early age will enable us in the future to protect it from demagogues who attempt to weaken the nation. Amen. And I'm part of an organization. I sit on the board of our Patriot Camps of America that we do every year here in our county, and every June, the first week in June, where we teach little kids from age 6 to 12 about the founding of this country, about the divine inspiration that brought the Declaration of Independence to fruition. And the need for it and what was happening. And every year we teach about we bring out the big boat and we let the kids actually plan how they're going to sneak across the water and get into that boat and throw the tea into the ocean in the Boston Tea Party. Kids get to be a part of that and understand. And folks, you got to remember, back then, the tea went up in taxes. The tax went up, I think 3% or something. And if you think about that, we declared independence, not just that, but over little issues like that, where we were done and the people rallied and they fought so that we could have the nation we're in today. 250 years. We're still here, the American experiment. And I think the founding documents are a testament to how that is possible. Now, like with everything, people will find a way around it, and we get very, very comfortable in our lives, and we kind of let things pass or slide, or we stop paying attention. And I think that's where danger happens, is when we stop paying attention. So, and knowing those constitutional values, declarations, values, all those things matter. So, and I say mainly in the case of the United States, which has a constitution worthy of analysis and appreciation, unlike countries such as my own, Ecuador. That's really a good point. Our three branches of government is really essential to making that work properly. That we have, checks and balances on everyone. The Supreme Court makes sure everything is constitutional. The Constitution is being followed. And then you've got the CEO of the nation, which is the president, and his job is to make sure our nation is being well run. And then you've got the Congress and Senate, whose job is to make sure the funding is secure for the plan for the nation. And the Senate is making laws. And those plans, they all have to work together. I think we are seeing a very cohesive workings of the three branches right now. And I hope that the midterms are a good turnout for us, so that some of the things that Trump is trying to get done will get done. I'm afraid that if we lose the seats in the midterm, the presidency comes to a stop, and a lot of us we're going to be in trouble. I say that because there is so much that still needs to get done just to get us out of the funk we were in 4 years prior. And we have to keep moving forward. And we have to make sure that the accountability is there and the people are informed, but also that we're able to have the American dream, whatever that dream is for you. Many of it's to own a home. Well, banks need to start lending people money for that. But number one, wages need to go up. And I don't know that we'll see prices go down, unfortunately. I don't think we'll see prices go down, because how many people actually lower prices after they hit a certain price line? We're watching energy go down, which is great and very important for the service and trucks to be moving and going back and forth to fill your stores. That right there, gas alone affects what things cost at your local grocery store, just to transport it. And then we get into jobs. Are jobs paying enough to match the market? Is the US dollar doing well? All these things affect your everyday life. Average car sales are like $50,000, folks. That to me is crazy. I don't know how the car industry is staying alive, because I think most people can't imagine paying a mortgage type payment for a vehicle. But that's where we are. And we need the US dollar to get stronger. And I certainly think that we are on the right track for that. I really do believe that. And I hope that we'll continue to go that way. So I do hope that Trump is reelected. Well, not reelected, excuse me. No. I do hope that we're able to maintain the House and the Senate in the midterms. And I will work very hard to to get that to happen. I hope many of you will. I think we need to get these 4 years through where we have relationships with other countries where we are helping each other. And for the countries that don't want the best thing for the world, per se, those countries need to at least understand that the American people are not going to be pushed around or hurt, and that we're going to stand up when we see tyranny. And I don't want to be the world police. I cannot stress that enough. So I am leaving it to people far more qualified than myself to decide. Now, I have to get this link to Kevin because for some reason he doesn't have it. So please forgive me for 1 second while I get that link to him. Okay, back to comments. Which historically they had more than 20 constitutions, something that is simply crazy. You're right. And I don't understand how Ecuador works. So that's very interesting. This is why I believe we should learn a great deal from you and your constitution. I think everyone should learn, especially American citizens. You should learn about the founding of this nation. And hopefully a teacher taught you back in the day, but there's always great resources out there to understand it, including the documents themselves. And they are highly important, as many of you are probably learning if something is unconstitutional. I mean, there's a lot of amendments that are being challenged, and that's great. We should always have free speech. We should always be able to challenge our government. And if we don't, and when we stop, that's when they start doing things for you. And that is not the way it's meant to be. I know our party believes in individual freedom and the individual being able to make their own destiny. And that's opening a business, which I have done in my own life. And that if anybody ever wants to understand taxes and overreach and stress of regulation, open a business and see how much regulation may go towards your business that you may not even understand. So regulations are a huge deal right now in this country. It always has been. And when Trump was in his last term, he tried to deregulate, I think, three regulations to every new one. So to get rid of 3 before you could bring in anything else. I love that. I think it's important. I think many of us are just, the regulations for small business is through the roof. And it's another reason maybe that we don't have more houses being built that are starter homes for families. I know Jared and I talk about this often, that many of us were raised in a home that was 1,500 to 2,000 square feet with full families, one of 6 kids in one household. And, we shared bedrooms, but it was an affordable home that our parents could afford and raise their family in. And eventually they sold and got something else. Nowadays, it's hard to find a house that is that small and affordable. And it's a really different time. And we need to see about getting that fixed. Okay, I believe I have him, and I'm going to bring him in. Hey.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Kevin. So something weird happened. Not weird, but Jared got called into his work. So it is just me tonight as my very first solo run. And thankfully, people are being very patient with me.
Well, you know what? It's not going to be solo anymore.
Yay. So Kevin, give us a little bit of your bio, because usually there's 2 of us and I can talk about you. I've let people know that you are now going to be you are now the party chair for Tooele County. So I've gotten that far, but let's talk about
Previously, before last week, I was the vice chair of the Tooele County
GOP. So I'm a police officer. I'm a detective in the Valley right now in Salt Lake Valley. I've
Thank
got a
you
long
for that.
history of, yeah. Well, as you know, your father was a retired policeman out of West Valley. I think that was. So I come from a long line of cops. My dad's a retired cop. My mother was the assistant to I believe 6 different police chiefs over the course of time. My grandpa was a policeman and so forth. I spent a lot of my career with the Portland Police Bureau in Oregon. I was a state trooper in Oregon before that. I spent a little bit of time as a police chief. So that's a little bit on the law enforcement side. A lot of people don't know when I got hurt in police work and had to figure some things out for a little while. I spent a little bit of time as a pro baseball umpire, and that was a
That's
lot of fun.
crazy.
Like
I had no idea.
yeah. So some people go through their midlife crisis and buy sports cars and do crazy things. I went and flew to Florida and went to the Major League Umpire School, and before I knew it, the next year I'm in the Midwest on TV doing baseball games as a crew chief in the independent league. So
So
yeah,
tell
it was
me,
interesting how that.
did you ever have like people spit on you or kick dirt on you like we see these umpires go through sometimes with a challenge call?
No, nobody ever kicked dirt on me. There were some pretty heated arguments. My very first ejection was in Mankato, Minnesota, and it was over a weather
Minnesota.
issue. Yes, right. Well, I think Minnesota was, at least for me, a little different back then. I really enjoyed going to the different towns in Minnesota.
It's a great state.
Yeah, Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan and Illinois. It was really, I got to see parts of the country that you wouldn't like go to on vacation, but they were just wonderful towns. And we would spend several days like in each town before we left. It was amazing. But yeah, nobody actually kicked dirt on me. Did have some pretty heated arguments. My dad was actually watching on streaming my very first pro ejection. And I remember when I got done, there was a text waiting for me that said, "Hey, you look good on TV ejecting somebody." I'm like, "Thanks, Dad."
So did you bring your family when you went? Your wife, did she go with you?
No. My wife stayed back in the Vancouver, Washington area.
Okay.
So I didn't bring her with, but I flew around a couple of different times, and then later I ended up having a college schedule for a little while, and then I would do, up until a couple of years ago, I would sub in on pro games here in Utah, like up in Ogden. They'd call me once or twice a summer and ask if I'd join the crew. And then I did some high school stuff, like some of the championship tournaments and different things, and just absolutely had a ball doing baseball. So I think a midlife crisis where you get a bunch of exercise and make friends and spend time on a baseball field doing something that you love really wasn't too bad. So I finally stopped doing games a couple of years ago. There was just, but mostly to be honest, to try to help in politics. I just didn't have the time on the extra side to do both, and I thought it was time to move on. And then on the other side of the bio is I've owned businesses, and I basically run operations and different things for years. So when I was younger, like a lot of us, I didn't need quite as much sleep. So I would work as a police officer and run businesses. I started my first business when I was 15. I started a baseball card shop inside of a hardware store. I was able to get financing for a little under $5,000, bought my inventory, and away we went. And then I had a vending machine company in college, and later I had 2 branches of an investment mortgage company in my late 20s, early 30s. With my sister, I owned those. I've had 2 trucking companies, and now we invest in various businesses and do some different things like that and consult. So that's a little bit of my history. And I think what people really need to know about me is I've been knocked down more than the average. So it may look like we have a pretty great life right now, and I think we do. Happily married to my wife. We've been married for 8 years. We've raised 9 kids between the 2 of us. They're all grown at this point. We have Justin, who has Down syndrome, that lives with us, but it didn't come easily. The parts where we don't have enough coming in to pay our bills, or you can't get the job that you need, or you're out searching and you just feel desperate and like nobody wants you. I've been through that, and I've been through it not once, really twice. I had to completely rebuild myself.
Right.
So between about 17 and 2020, I spent my career time was on the road doing speaking engagements. That's what I did for 3 years. And when COVID came around, my wife and I were actually in Hawaii. We were flying high. We were having a great time. I was booked out like for 8 months. And I had a 4-day swing in Hawaii, and I brought my wife, and we barely got out of there before COVID shut the islands down. And by the time I got back, my business was gone. There
Wow.
was it was just gone, just completely gone. And once again, we had to rebuild ourselves. But that's the thing about the United States of America. I firmly believe, because I've been down as low as anybody can be, and if people challenge me on that, I literally did live down by the river, not in a van, but in a small motorhome where I was homeless, and nobody would. I couldn't get a home. So if people say they were lower than that, okay, but it's been. But if you never quit and you keep pushing, no matter how bleak it looks, this country offers opportunity for those who are willing to do the work. And at a point, I drove an Uber 14 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week to do what I had to do.
If you're hungry enough, you're right.
If you're
The
hungry
country will
enough, you
provide.
will. That's right. You do what you have to do. And when things really started turning around for me there, I met somebody that I gave a ride to that was in the public speaking business. And she introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody. And the next thing you know, I was in basically a week-long kind of working interview with a company that just hires speakers continuously. And the next thing you know, a new career was born that I hadn't even imagined. I didn't know that there was. It may sound silly now, but at
No.
that point, I
God
don't
always
think I'm a
has a
naive
plan.
person. But yeah, I didn't even know this business existed, right? But it did. And like you said, God provides, but we have to do our part. We can't sit around and just wait for the world to drop it on us. Like, that's not how it works. We have to do everything that we can do. During the last 5 years, I went and got my bachelor's degree, and then I went and got my master's degree in management. I have an SPHR in senior human resources management. And all that took a lot of work, right? But
Yeah.
you have to do the work to make yourself marketable and to learn the skills that you need to learn. Because as you are well aware, being the chair of a county party is like running a large organization that you just don't get paid to do.
Yeah.
And the folks that are there are volunteers. So if you do a poor job in leading, or they don't feel invested or seen or heard, they just leave. So it requires really the utmost of effort and connectability and accountability, but with love and bringing people together and all of those skills that we build over the course of our time. So I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity, but boy, it's been a bumpy road getting there. I'll tell you what.
Well, like you said, God will put things in front of us at really inconvenient times, but sometimes you just got to go with it and see where that path leads you. And I have to say, hi, Mom. I love you. Thank you for tuning in.
Your mom's on right now?
Yes. And I wanted to mention something too, that my husband and I, we had a multi-million-dollar company ourselves, and it wasn't 2020. It was 2008. And our company
That's
was
when I lost another business.
microtechnology, and we were the inventors and creators and sellers of microtechnology, and it was actually for first responders. And so in 2008, it was almost overnight. Everything
Just like that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
within that same 6 months later, we find out we're having a baby, something that we couldn't have for 8 years. We'd fought and tried, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. Doctor said it would never happen. So I'm like, we get this absolute crushing experience losing our business that we took so many years and so much money and so many good investors who believed in it, just to lose it. And then, congratulations, you're going to be a mom. And it was like, wow, it's bittersweet, right? But again, if you're hungry enough for something, I mean, we were selling everything that wasn't nailed down in our house to be able to just keep the house. And
that's right. We figure out wants and needs pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
In those circumstances, you bet we do.
Absolutely. And the truth is, like, every single one of us out there, we all have something that is a struggle for us, and no one understands it. But what we can do is get behind each other and just know that we've all been somewhere in that darkness, and that it's community that brings us back. And we're lucky to live in a rural community where we still know each other and our neighbors. And it's so nice, the volunteers that make up our party and our especially like our central committee and our delegates and our
Yeah.
precinct chairs. Like, it's so nice to have a sounding board from those people to tell us what are the issues that affect them. And you were there, the school board's meeting. I was there. I mean,
We
most of our
were,
county was there. That happened all over this state. That
yeah,
same scenario.
it was very difficult. So I would say that I was undereducated prior to the large meeting, the transparency meeting, right? In Tooele County, but I went to educate myself to try to figure out what the issues were, what was going on. And for those who were not in that room related to our school board and raising taxes, it was very difficult not to be affected because I looked around. This wasn't a Republican, Democrat, independent issue. I saw, there was, I don't know how many people were in that room, about 500, maybe more.
I think there was probably around 300, but the room was full, and it was a high school
full,
auditorium,
right?
and usually they have about 350 seats.
Okay. So
Plus
at Tooele
standing.
High School, it was full. There was people standing, and it was universal. Person after person after person after person, like more than 50 people came up to the mic,
At least
and they
100.
were probably more, and they were. You had all different races. You know, you had Black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. You had young people, older people. You had heavy set, thin,
You had
beautiful
rich
bald
people,
rich
poor
people,
people.
poor people. And to hear their stories of how these things were impacting them and commanding their school district to figure it out, stop raising taxes, stop making stupid decisions and losing money. What was it, $50 million in grant money, I think it was,
Yeah.
that they received, if I remember correctly. And don't quote me, but I think it was for online school. And then I think they spent the money on
Had to
something.
do too with Deseret Peak and the expense, the
Okay.
We've got a new high school in town, folks, that Jared has a jihad against. It looks collegiate. It is a beautiful school.
It
but
is beautiful.
It wasn't built to accommodate the future kids coming in. It was built to accommodate the kids we had now. And that's crazy to me that they can't build looking out in the future, because as that school is going up, our county surveyor and recorder's office has got thousands of new developments coming in that anticipate many, many more young kids. And they can't even look at that and say, we're building this school too small.
Well, I think the problem is, and this is one of, I think, the hallmarks of our party, is we believe in conservative government. And there's actually some really smart people that I know that have been in government all their life, but that's their only perspective, right? As they grow up in leadership, try owning a business where people are crying and carrying out their boxes because of the decisions that I made.
Well, right? And you crying or not being able to sleep at night because you can't make payroll tomorrow.
Right.
People don't understand that.
They don't understand that. And the thing is, in public government, you need people that have those kinds of understandings so that when you have a school administration, and I'm not saying they're not smart, but in the world that I come from, if you lose $50 million, then you got to go to your investors for another $50 million, you are no longer employed as a CEO or whatever it is. But in public government, apparently in Tooele County right now, they get raises. And the people, like everybody that was there at that meeting, at least that I could see, commanded that school board to listen to their voters and not raise taxes and find another way. And they just blew off the voters. So as it turned out, they weren't able to get the tax increase through because essentially of a technicality.
A technicality that saved us all.
Right. That saved us all. And there was a lot of that went on. But what I don't think they understand is when the board of your company has bosses, which are investors, which in our county are the taxpayers, say no and say resoundingly no, and the board does it anyway, you're going to get fired like in anywhere else. And in my opinion, that is the process that's taking place right now. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. I think a lot of people come and talk about them being evil and that kind of thing. I'm not going to say that. I don't necessarily believe that. I don't think there's enough money in being on the school board for people to come for nefarious purposes. I think they think they're doing the right thing. So I'm going to
Sure.
assume that they're doing the right thing. But if I run a company and I screw it up, even if I'm doing the right thing, they fire me. Or
that's
I
the thing,
lose
though.
my company, right?
The right thing to them may not be the right thing to you, down to the very
Correct.
moral structure, which is why it's so important to know what their platform is and what they believe in, because that's why I want it to be partisan. I want those races to go through any other race we have in the
Yeah.
county, so we can know when they're responsible for that much of your money. We're getting taxed on unrealized gains. That's what
Yes.
property tax is.
That's what's going on. And to have that kind of power, so basically they come back to the investors and say, we're just taking more of your money.
Yes.
And where I come from, the investors stop investing, and then you don't have any more money to operate, and then you have no business.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that these folks are going to learn a hard lesson, because I do believe that the folks of our county, again, of all different types, are simply going to take their school board back. Whatever it is that's their platform or whatever it is they believe, they put on display that they didn't believe that they had to listen to their investors, which are the voters.
And I'll
Right?
tell you what, they're going to come back swinging next year.
Yeah, well,
They are going to
yes,
do it, and they're going to notice that truth and taxation meeting. They're going to do everything right, and they're going to get that same. They are going to ask for the same, if not more, of your taxes. And what we noticed in that meeting was how many people got up and said, I cannot afford my home. I cannot afford my home anymore. I did everything right. I bought a home that I could afford.
It brought me to tears.
It did.
It brought me to tears. I couldn't. I mean, I grew up. My dad was a small town policeman, and my mom was a waitress before she got into police work. And we were so poor. It's funny you talk about like white privilege. I guess that skipped our family growing up, because we were eating turnips out of the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
In order to survive, right? And the kind of thing. So I got to tell you, like, Oregon was a somewhat conservative state when we were growing up. But Oregon and Washington, where I come from, school boards have to come to the voters by law for a school bond in order to raise taxes. So when I come over here to what's supposed to be a conservative state, and I see that school boards can just raise taxes on voters, I'm like, are we really a conservative state? Because that seems to be a pretty conservative principle, even though I came from a liberal state. So what's going on here? Like, I don't understand. So this is part of why I'm getting involved. But when you hear somebody who reminded me a lot of where my mom and dad were, or of my grandma and grandpa on fixed incomes that say, you can't raise taxes then anymore. We can't, right? And you have folks that may be well-meaning, but how, I mean, I couldn't listen to those folks and not say, yes, I will help you. I will do everything I know how to do to help you. So hopefully, with us doing everything we know how to do, if people actually care, this is a year where the apathy, people are like, oh, it's a non-presidential voting year. Yeah, okay, it's a non-presidential voting year, but this is a year that impacts you. It impacts your property taxes. It impacts your schools. It impacts your local races. We have a sheriff's race. We have, as you well know, we've got 2 House races that impact our county, right? This is not the year to be asleep at the switch and be apathetic, because these races are going to have a real impact on people. And if things go right with the school board, we're going to have 3 new school board members.
Right. Every one of those folks is being challenged this year, which is
they are being challenged.
As a party person, I love to see it. I love to see challenges, because it gives both sides a chance to defend and to excite and to explain the year or their previous tenure, right? So the incumbent gets a chance to really show off what they've done well and why they deserve to continue their job. And the challenger gets the chance to say what they would do different or add on to. But the fact that these races are happening, and I know that we've reached out to challengers in these races and offered them a opportunity to meet with our voters, which I was explaining earlier. I think it's crucial these folks get in front of our voters.
Yep.
And these folks are mad. And I was mad. I've been mad since that meeting. I cannot have a podcast without mentioning that meeting, because my heart broke
It
for
was
so many people.
so long. I mean, the thing is, my wife and I crawled up by the bloody nubs to where we're pretty comfortable right now. So I think we were a little asleep at the switch, because even though it made us a little less comfortable, we're not rich by any means, but we're doing okay, right? So I wasn't getting it, but I got it after that meeting. And Matt, I don't think really describes it. I want to make it clear. I would never do anything insurrectionist. I'm not going to hurt somebody. I'm not going to break the law. Like, I would never do that. But I don't think the word mad really describes
No.
how I came out of that meeting. It was this deep seated feeling of, we have to help them, right? So why do I do this and spend the hours? And why do you spend the hours where I'm not getting paid? For them, for them, and for the voters right now in our county that's growing, so that we can have real representation. Which brings me to, can I talk about the dates of our precinct chair and vice chair trainings and caucus?
Absolutely.
Is this
Well,
okay?
and
So
the training is for delegates as well. They're going to
yes, it's
learn
for
what their
delegates as
jobs
well,
are.
right?
And for any of you that are interested in getting more involved, there has not been, for me, a better experience politically than when I first ran as a delegate, and
What I did
getting
too.
involved and really getting to know candidates personally and what their values are, and feeling like you're part of it. It is really special. It is about 6 weeks of your life. You will have to attend a convention, of course, but the party has made it so easy. For we're going to have meet the candidate nights, where candidates and delegates get together, and at least 3 times. That's what we've always done in the past.
Mhm.
And that allows candidates to have a platform that everyone is together, and it just makes it easier. And then once you go to convention and you vote, you're voting for your neighbors. The number one goal, though, is make sure you're giving your neighbors feedback from what you're learning. That is what I think our disconnect is in the caucus convention system, is once you're trusted to be a delegate, your job then is to make sure your precinct understands exactly why
Yes.
you're choosing who you're choosing, and then you have those conversations before you vote.
That's right. Well, it's neighborhood representation, right? So a lot of people don't really understand the caucus system and how it works, and I didn't either. But I started getting involved, and the thing is, we have our county in everywhere in the state, but the county is broken up into voting precincts in our party, in the Republican Party. And in those voting precincts, each one of those precincts has a neighborhood chair and a neighborhood vice chair, right? And how are we doing for time? Do we got to dump out like right at 7?
No, we're
Holly?
great. In
We can
fact,
keep
if
talking?
you don't mind, I'm going
Okay.
to keep you just because I don't have Jared tonight. So.
You know what? I blocked out this time on my night just so we could spend some time together and spend some time talking to people, because this is the crux of why I am involved. So each neighborhood has a precinct chair and a vice chair, and then depending on voter turnout and a little bit of a formula, you're going to have at least one, and sometimes for really low attended or just smaller precincts, they might combine, but you're going to have at least one county and state delegate to the county convention, to the state convention. Now, here's the importance of the precinct chairs and vice chairs. So the precinct chair or vice chair, depending on who's available, is going to run the meeting at caucus, where people cast their votes for their delegates, where they cast the vote for their delegates to represent them. And this is very, very important. So then, and this is the part that's really been missed, I think, in our county up to this point, you are the board of the Republican Party in this county. So each neighborhood has a chair and vice chair that represents their neighborhood. And over the course of the next period, which is 2 years, right? 2 years for chairs and vice chairs.
Yeah.
You're the representative. Well, right now we're getting less than 25% attendance at those neighborhood county or at those county committee meetings. So what that means is more than 75% of the neighborhood representation isn't happening. So every neighborhood's supposed to be represented. So what we're looking for is we're looking for some good people. You don't have to have all the time in the world, but we're just looking for good, smart people that care, that are willing to represent their neighborhood. And I mean, really willing to represent your neighborhood. That means you're not just gonna run the caucus meeting, but that you're gonna show up. It's 4 times a year. And we have those meetings 4 times a year. And then if we call a special meeting, which is rare, but maybe once in a while, you show up and you represent your neighborhood, and you can hold little events in the neighborhood for different candidates and different things. And it is so important. So we have training. We have 3 different trainings, and we set them up to where basically if you attend one of them, that's great. We're also going to we're planning on having recordings where you can go back and watch them, but we've got 3 different dates. If you are currently a precinct chair or vice chair or a delegate, or you are interested in becoming a precinct chair or vice chair or delegate, we've got different trainings. So the first one is going to be on Saturday, January the 31st at Tooele High, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. So Saturday, January the 31st, at Tooele High at 10 a.m. Second one is going to be Monday, February the 9th at 6:30 p.m. Monday, I'll do the speak and spell voice. Monday, February the 9th at 6:30 p.m. See, you like that voice?
That's great. Yeah, that's
Thank you so much. It's so interesting.
not
Everybody
creepy
wants
at
to
all.
do that. They're not. That's going to be at Excelsior. So Monday, February the 9th, 6:30 at Excelsior. And then the third one is going to be February the 19th. Let's see, what day of the week is February the 19th? I think that's a Thursday. Let's see, January and February. Yeah, Thursday, February the 19th at 6:30.
So the second one is on the 9th at Excelsior,
Yeah,
on a Monday,
correct. On a Monday.
6
And
p.m.
then the third one, 6:30. And then the third one's also going to be at Excelsior. It's going to be on Thursday the 19th at 6:30. So we're trying to hit different schedules and different things. Please, if you're interested, please come to one of them. You'll see the magic of what we're doing and why and how we can help candidates with people involved in each neighborhood. There's got to be 2 of you for a precinct chair and vice chair. You can't tell me that there isn't 2 people that you don't have to have a ton of time, that you just care. You're willing to meet your neighbors, maybe set up a little Facebook page that everybody can talk to your neighbors, figure out what's important to them, meet them, and then really work your way through who are going to be the best candidates. So the precinct chairs and vice chairs run things. And then, like, if the vice chair moves out of the area, the precinct chair will appoint.
Yeah,
say,
the
a
precinct
new
chair and vice chairs are the governing body of our party.
You are the
So
governing body of their party, but the problem we've
Everything,
been
and they're
having
the
is
conduit from your
everything.
neighborhood, so that if a candidate is wanting to knock on doors, they would contact the precinct chair and say, "Hey, do you have any volunteers that would want to knock on doors with me? Or what's the best place? Is there anything I need to know?"
Right.
Precinct chairs are so important.
They're so important, and one of the
vice
best
chairs.
precinct chairs. Yes. So I started as a county delegate, a state delegate. I showed up in my suit to caucus night and brought some neighbors with me that I thought might think that I would do a good job. No idea what I was doing, and I said I'd actually like to be a delegate for the county and the state. And so my neighborhood elected me, and they elected my wife as a county delegate, and then I was elected as the precinct vice chair. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but that's basically how we got started. And it was absolutely amazing meeting people and being involved and just helping where we can. And I'm going to tell you that if you really want to be involved, and you are willing to do a little bit of work, people will figure it out pretty quick. If you're honest, if you treat people well, right? The thing is, so I'm the chair of the county right now, and we have a leadership team, normally of 4 of us, but the vice chair position is vacant because I vacated it. And we have an executive committee that includes the 3 people that were elected to the state central committee. But we don't want to be the only decision makers. So people come and say, "Well, we don't like the decision that you made there." So then join me. Come in and be at the meetings and vote. Like represent your neighborhood so that we could do a good job representing the cross section of the county, right? So we can be educated. So that's on caucus night. We'll have county delegates and we'll have state delegates. So that brings me to our conventions. So if you're interested in being a delegate,
Caucus night.
Well, we have caucus. I didn't even give you the date of caucus night. You have to excuse my friend. He's been that's me. He's been up late at nights getting things together, so he may be a little slow. Oh, don't,
I've thrown a fire on you, brother, that
you it's
I'm
funny.
impressed.
I don't know if people can relate to this or not, but I had told my wife a couple of weeks before, and I mean, this is always a mistake if you're a religious person, I think. Maybe not a mistake, but I think you can follow me, where I said, I just don't feel challenged right now. I feel like I've worked so hard to develop these different leadership skills, and they're just not being used. And I don't know. And then I said, but I don't really want the limelight anymore. I'm just not really interested in that. So that's a conversation, right? So then I had texted Holly. You remember, about something else? I think it was trying because we're working on a website which should be up and running pretty well fairly quickly. I don't know exactly what that
Excellent.
means, but we're getting close. So I was working on getting a picture for the page. So then I get this text from you that says that you were looking at running for the House in Bridger Bollinger's seat, and that you needed me to take over. So I got up. So what happened in my house, you didn't see this part, is I got up and I looked at my wife, and she said, are you okay? You've lost all the color from your face. Like, the color's just completely drained out of you. And I just walked over and handed her my phone. And that woman had the audacity to laugh at me. She laughed and laughed and laughed. And I said to her, "What is so funny, Laugh-A-Loticus?" And she said, you said you were bored. And I said, "Well, that's not what I meant." And she said, "Our Heavenly Father listens when you say things. So it's been less than a week, and now your prayer is answered." And she said, "Doesn't always come the way you think." Right. So
That's
it took
the
me a little
truth.
while to get my head around it, but now I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. My wife and I and our family has been tremendously blessed. We have been blessed with some really hard times, and being able to see things, and to be able to start pulling more people with us, for all of us to do this together, is really, really exciting, right? So, caucus night.
I want to say something about what you
Oh,
just said. I've been
okay.
blessed to go through some really hard times. I think people don't realize, I mean, I don't know if it's just a certain personality type or something, but I cannot tell you how many times in my life where I have been there, where it has been challenging and terrible, that I can feel the blessing that's coming from it. And I look
Yep.
back and go, wow, what did I learn? Look at, yes, this horrible thing happened, but look what I learned through and what happened
Oh,
because of
yeah.
this horrible thing. I think that
Right.
is key to that hunger where you want to keep going. And I just think that failure is an opportunity to learn more and to
Right.
improve. And so
Yeah.
I
You
appreciate
know,
that.
the thing is, if you've ever been out there, and by the way, sometimes I get a little emotional right now. And you know what? I bled in the streets for all of you. So I've gotten to a point where if I want to cry, I'm going to cry. And I really couldn't care less who thinks anything of me. So if I do, you'll live with it. Right. But anyway, if you've ever been out there and you've had somebody that doesn't love you anymore, right? Or you're really good at your job and you get passed over, or all of a sudden there's medical issues that you didn't expect, or you've got a loved one with drug abuse and alcohol abuse issues, or there's health problems that didn't come up, or challenges, or your community faces a disaster, or whatever. I've lived through all of those things. And it's such a blessing, which of course doesn't feel that way at the time. But I've gained such an ability to connect with people and to understand them. It has made me a better husband. It's made me a better father. It's made me a better leader. It's made me a better street cop. It's made me a better friend. It's made me, and the thing is, there are certain skills and abilities that couldn't be gained another way.
Right.
So having really had the chance to make a difference in some people's lives, I can tell you that I wouldn't trade it now. I
And
didn't
that's
used to feel
amazing.
that way. Yeah, and so a lot of times the hard thing is the blessing, because there's some people out there who haven't been through so many hard things, and you don't have the opportunity to elevate yourself. Because right now, really, what I want to do with the best of my rest of my life as I turn 50 is I just want to do something good and impact the world in a good way.
I
Like
feel
that's it.
exactly the same. And, being a public servant, it's never a job people go into for the money. And I know with my dad and my stepmom, we're both law enforcement. They work 20-hour days. It was very often. And then they always have a second job because it doesn't pay the bills all the time. It
We
is
used
a
to have
love
to,
of
yeah.
sport in the sense that they
Yeah.
do it because it's inside them that they
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
serve, and that's their calling. And I think that's very special. I think it's very special, and I applaud you for that. And I'm so grateful to our law enforcement in our communities, especially.
Thank you. And I would like to put a shout out to all the bald law enforcement in the communities.
Oh, right,
The really pretty members that do those things. Absolutely. But
right.
so so here's one of the things that I see. You look at okay, we talked about police officers. You can talk about firefighters. You can talk about nurses. Talk about social workers. They make very little and do so much, right? And so many other professions and things. So many times people like will hear things and people will yell and scream things like at police officers. You really think I don't come to work to try to do a good job and help people? Like that's crazy, right? Why would anybody like that? I just don't even understand. I've worked with so many wonderful people. Politics, I don't really see as any different. Are there people that rise to power for nefarious purposes? Yes, certainly that happens, but that's not normally what happens. You have to, even if there's a candidate that you defeat or that is defeated, you have to appreciate the fact. I mean, look at the school board. I mean, they don't even make what, $30,000 a year for being on the school board with all the extra time that they put on.
I don't even know how
into
much
what
they
they're
make.
doing.
I know the
It's not a
state
lot.
legislature doesn't make. They make like 16.
No, it's like $16,000, right, for legislative session, and they basically operate on no sleep. People have no idea. If you don't know a legislator, talk to them. They're like, you didn't vote for this bill, you didn't vote for that bill, and sometimes there's some things I strongly disagree with. These are people that give like 20+ hour days during legislative session. They run on fumes for almost no money because out of the goodness of their heart, they're really trying to do what's right. And people will say, well, they're just protecting their oligarch friends and things. Sure, some of the decision making may look like that. But again, if somebody knows how, you can go into private investment finance and make a ton of money not going through the legislature. So that doesn't even, if you already have those friends, there's plenty of money. I don't buy it. I really think that we need to treat each other better. There's so like people will snip at each other and assume the worst of each other. We have to knock that off. We really need to stop doing that, even if there's somebody that we really disagree with. In politics, there's, I grew up in a place where people would vehemently disagree with each other. Well, in my town, it was more arguing and screaming at each other. We knew each other. And then at the end, you give each other a hug and you're friends the next day. And that's how it has to be. We have to have respect for the people that are willing to run. Like, why is somebody running? Well, it isn't for the money. So then what are they doing? They're giving their time and effort for free or almost no money in different
Or
things.
they're spending their money.
Or they're spending their
own
money, right?
to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. So how about if we treat each other with a little bit of respect, right? And how about the Democrats that we know or independents? And by the way, in this county, we really don't get anything done without our independent friends voting for things that we all agree on. But we've got in my family, we have a family member who's a member of the LGBTQ community, and we have some very differing political beliefs. And by the way, he is one of the nicest people I know, and he has had my back personally more than he's more than so many family members have, right? I trust this man implicitly. And we disagree strongly on different things. But overriding all that is love for one another.
Absolutely.
Right? We listen to each other and we come out on each other's teams when everything is done. So that is what I want to see as the party chairs. I want to see us all on each other's teams. We had a lesson in church this last week talking about being each other's cheerleaders, right? Being each other's cheerleaders. So there's somebody that you diabolically oppose politically, but they do something great or they have something wonderful happen for them. Be each other's cheerleaders. You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Was it Scalia? It was one of the justices on the Supreme Court. They were just diabolically opposed to each other philosophically, right? And they were best of friends. Sean Hannity and Alan Combs, if anybody remembers Hannity and
Yeah.
Combs.
I have many family members that don't vote the way I
Right.
do, but I love them. You know, I love
Of
them so
course.
much that I would rather not talk politics with them just to spend time with them and not upset them. But I know exactly, like,
You know what you mean? Do you
and our
remember?
party itself is so fractured. I
Well, that's
mean,
what I mean. We're
you can all
fracturing. So the
believe
thing
the same
is,
platform, but have different
right,
insight on what it means to you. And those people deserve the same grace as the people who vehemently disagree with you, because at the end of the day, we all love this country. We all love, usually most of us love Christ, and we want so badly to be like him. And we have to remember that's why we're here. This is about love and communication, and the life is a lot
right,
harder when you don't have that in your life. You don't have people that can be your cheerleader.
right. You know, I remember when it impacted me, but I remember when Alan Combs died and Hannity weeping and weeping and weeping, you know, for his friends. So how many friends do we have like that? And we criticize each other for like meeting with a member of like the opposite side or whatever it is. But the thing is, most of us, if you sit down, like if I talk with my family member, we agree on about 80% of everything,
Right.
maybe more. So at the very least, why don't we all pull together and get that 80% done? What are we waiting for? Like snipping at each other on the side, like this
Because we're
needs
so
to stop.
tribal.
We're so tribal, right? We have a lot of work to do. There's a new highway that we need that's now 20 years on the back burner at the at the base of the mountain. The Mountain View corridor needs to be finished. We need more infrastructure. We need fiscal responsibility, like in our government. We
You
have
mean the
so
Mid-Valley
many
Highway?
things. Yes, that's what did I say?
Mountain View corridor, but yes, you're right about that too.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I work in the valley. Like, what can I say?
Right, but
When
the
it starts
Mid-Valley
getting later,
Highway,
Mid-Valley
yes,
Highway,
we did get that one going, that project, and now we're kind of
right?
like pushed back on the back burner, which is alarming, because that highway is very, very helpful to our community and to getting
Right.
a lot of congestion off of 36 and helping a lot of people here.
A lot of people, and the thing is, when we're all snipping at each other, we look like a bunch of buffoons to the people at the state, and we end up getting put on the back burner because we can't even get along with one another. So the thing is, this is vital. Like, we have to pull together to like get things done. So we'll see how we do, but that is definitely one of my aims as chair to get there. So we talked about caucuses. We talked about the date for caucus night, which is the 17th of March. We just put that out on our Facebook page, but it's the 17th of March. And I believe we're going to start at, I think 6:30, I think is when we start. 6.
You get there at 6, you can register, and then you just have to find out. The locations are going to be everywhere across the valley.
They'll be published.
You will be able to find it quite easily, hopefully. And of course, your party is always available to you on the Tooele County Republican Party pages. There's a public page. I suggest all of you join that if you're interested in getting those dates and information on both the trainings and caucus itself, as well as convention.
Right. And if you want to get a hold of anybody in your party leadership, now we're all up and running on these emails. It's really, really easy. So my email is chair@TooeleCountyGOP.org. So chair@TooeleCountyGOP.org. If you need to contact our party secretary. Now, this is going to shock you that the format's so different. It is secretary@TooeleCountyGOP.org. And our treasurer, you can probably guess it, is Pink Puppies at it's treasurer@TooeleCountyGOP.org. If you need to contact us, don't hesitate. We're here to help with whatever you need. Let's talk about a couple other dates. We're going to talk about state let's see, we've got just a second here. Tooele County Convention. So our county convention is, I have Thursday, April the 23rd. Is that what you have down, Holly?
Yes.
Tuesday, April the 23rd, Thursday, April the 23rd at, do you have it at Clark Johnson? That's where I'm showing it. So Tuesday, April the 23rd at Clark Johnson.
That is for your county delegates. And the public is welcome to go to those conventions. They just
Absolutely.
can't
I'd encourage
vote.
you. Yeah.
But you can go, you get a whole reception time where you get to meet all the candidates in the county and just meet all of them. As a member of the public, please consider going at least for the reception between 6 and 7.
Right.
It's a great opportunity.
Right. See how it works. Meet some different people. There's a ton there. And then we work. Let me see. I'm not seeing it on my schedule. What do you have on the schedule for state convention?
State convention is April 25th.
That's what I was going to say. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yep. April 25th, the state convention. Go ahead.
Is it in Orem?
I do not have the place yet. But I will tell you that if you're a state delegate, plan on all day. So wherever it is, it's going to be it's definitely going to be an all day affair.
It won't be as packed as the presidential election year, but it will not. It'll still be 4,000 people, but it shouldn't be as long. You don't have as many races. Actually, it could be all day. Just count on it.
I was going to say I count on all day, but there was a bylaw change that we passed at I think at SCC this last week that may make some of those races in convention a little bit shorter. But those are your dates.
And say hi to Jordan. Jordan, I did just leave a message on YouTube, but hi, Jordan. I couldn't read your handle, so please forgive me. Jared, my producer and best friend, he does all of that. So this is all new for me. I didn't see that your whole name. So forgive me, Jordan. You're such a great support to the show. And William, thank you also for your comments. And if any of you have comments or questions for Kevin, please feel free to message us just right here. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And if you like and subscribe, you'll see alerts when we go live, and then share if there's anything you want to share with your friends about the topics we're having today discussed. There's so much going on in the world right now. And like I said, local affects you more than anything. But
it is the most, right? It seems to get the lowest voter turnout. And I talk to my friends, I'm like, no, you're missing it. The biggest races are the local races.
It's true.
That's where the rubber meets the road on what actually
affect your pocket. Number one. And then when you look back to COVID and the lockdowns, and we actually got to see Sheriff Wimmer shine when he walked in front of a council and said, no, my deputies will not be arresting anyone for not wearing masks, for meeting in public. That is against the Constitution, and I stand by the Constitution. And it was so many people had shown up to that meeting, and you needed somebody, an elected, to stand up. Not saying that our council wasn't, but that, again, we go back to that time, and you've got the Department of Health sitting in there saying you all need to be masked and you can't meet in places, and these businesses like the one I was working for was being affected in such a way we were losing millions because of these regulations. And it was such a breath of fresh air to have a sheriff stand up for the Constitution in real time, and for you, all of us. And that's something that you never realize how important a sheriff's position is, for example, because their job is to protect your constitutional rights and to make sure this county is protected. And you got to see that in real time. And I think that's local. You had other counties absolutely shutting down, like Summit County and Salt Lake County.
That's right. People say, oh, my vote doesn't make a difference. I don't go out and vote. Well, your local elected officials are the biggest difference. They're the ones that control policy in your local area, right? Which, by the way, I'm going through. I found the chat button. By the way, it's the first time I've been on this format. But I think I like Jordan. He says, "Who's Kevin Macho? I need to meet that guy." Yes, we do
Jordan's
need to
great.
meet. Absolutely. Shoot me an email and we'll connect like by phone. I would absolutely love to meet you. And William was talking about how important the Constitution is and people actually knowing and understanding the Constitution. Do you know when I'm out working as a policeman, I actually carry a copy of the Constitution with me?
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah, so
And
it's great
William is
when
from Ecuador, so he's got a whole different mindset on what freedom looks like. And as far as,
probably
and
a lot
not
more appreciation.
I mean experience. Because I think you say white privilege in a joking fashion, but I think what it is American privilege. Because
Yes.
I'll tell you what, the people in this country have no idea what it's like around the world. Even the poorest among us have a flat TV, flat screen.
Yeah,
The
isn't that
poorest,
crazy?
yeah, the poorest
Right.
among us have a cell phone. When you go to
Right.
other countries, the poorest among them have distended bellies. They are starving or they are living in
They're in a
conditions that
box.
are,
Yep.
are barely survivable, and healthcare is not even an option. And
Sewage in the middle of the streets.
it's true. And how lucky we are that that isn't our experience. Not to say there aren't starving people in this country, but really those people have access to help. And it's
They do.
by the grace of other people that help should come, not always government. Um,
Right.
that's something that our platform really delves into, is an
It is.
individual liberty and your ability to control your own destiny. But like you, I would never walk past someone starving and
No.
not want to help. I can't even
No, but
imagine
but but
that.
the how is but the how to help is the hard part. Are we creating more problems with the way that we help? Are we going so the thing is all those are important, but I over all the years I used to work the same area of Portland like all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And I always brought extra food in my lunchbox for local homeless people because we all knew each other. We worked. You want to talk about community policing? We knew everybody. They knew us. Like we knew
Right.
each other right on a first name basis, right? So I the level of gratitude that we have is you're right. The poorest among us, like we have everything in this country, and people want to tear down our system. Is it always? Do people always get it right? No. Does the judicial system get it right? Definitely no. But we still haven't found a better system anywhere. And then you hear, unfortunately, so many of our young people go through college indoctrination, for lack of a better word, and we're starting to hear that they think socialism is a good idea again. Like,
They just haven't gotten it right yet. They could do it
yeah,
better.
So like the
Yet it's
112th
never
time,
worked. It's never
right?
ever worked in a way
Well, you
that
know
gives
what?
people more freedom.
No. Well, what I heard the other day that you can vote in socialism, but you're gonna have to shoot your way out. Right?
But
It's
you won't
crazy.
have
So
a
what?
weapon to shoot your way out of. That's the problem.
No, that
They'll
is
make
the
sure and
problem.
make sure that you don't have a weapon once it's
It
engaged.
is. It's crazy, right? When you see these things. So I don't know in how many countries. I don't have the number on how many countries socialism has come into play in, but let's say it was 188. So you folks really think the 189th time they're going to get it right?
Absolutely.
Like I mean,
Well,
this is
and
just
where's the
this.
line drawn from socialism to communism? Because that's usually the precursor is
Right.
communism. And when you look at how many people have died in communism versus, what we have, a republic,
Yeah,
there's
it's a
not even a
constitutional republic,
comparison. Stalin and
right?
Mao and Hitler and all, I mean, those are just the top three that we know of, and that's
It's
that's
crazy,
millions of people, tens and tens of millions of people
right?
dead
And
because of those principles.
they talk about, well, this country, I'm not even proud of my country, I'm ashamed of my country. You realize that your freedom to say that is because the country is so great, right?
It's true.
When we go work on something and I'm working on a case as a detective or whatever I'm doing, when somebody shouts across the street that they don't like me, we don't raise a gun and shoot you for that.
It's
There's a
true.
lot
Or
of
lock you up.
countries you wouldn't do that. But the thing is, I'm proud of the fact that we're not like that, right?
I'd like to say that brings me to a point of what the people of Iran are doing right now. They are
Yes.
facing a country where they are standing up in the streets, and it looks like it's a lot of young people, and they are
Mhm.
standing up in the streets against a government that will kill them for
They
doing
they they
exactly
they
what they're
w they
doing.
they absolutely will,
But I
and
applaud them because the masses have to stick together to have a true revolution and for them to take their nation back. And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful to see them and the people of Venezuela who are flooding the streets in gratitude that that their unelected president is no more. How lucky are we that our forefathers fought for that so long ago,
right?
250 years ago, that what a luxury that you get to go out and protest your government. Uh,
Yeah.
to me, it's a
Yes,
luxury that we're lucky to have.
it is, and if anybody wants to know what it was really like in Venezuela, talk to Carlos Moreno. He's one of the, he's one of the county council members in Salt Lake County. Came over here, did things the right way. He was an attorney in Venezuela, gave up everything to come over. Him and his family, just wonderfully nice people. But if you want to know what Venezuela was really like, talk to an actual Venezuelan that was there and saw how everything went. His name's Carlos Moreno. He's easy to find. He's a Salt
He's a
Lake County
great guy.
councilman. Great guy,
And
right?
guys, I mean, there's a lot of death associated with Venezuela. And a lot of the reason people are here is because they needed an escape. They actually needed true, true help from the United States. They weren't just escaping because they wanted a better life. They were escaping because their family was getting hunted and murdered by gang members and government. And that should terrify all of you. We have our arguments with the FBI crawling right up, you know,
Sure.
because you might
Right.
have been in DC or 5 miles away on January 6th so many years ago. But I mean, when you have a government that doesn't have any restrictions or policy and they can go in and shoot you for no reason other than you criticize them, when you have a
Right.
government that can shut the internet off
Yeah.
just to keep
And that's
you
exactly what
away.
they're working on doing, right? Is
It's happening
getting
in Iran. It's already
Starlink
happened
or
in North
whatever they need to do
Korea.
to try to get the internet. Yes, try to get the internet back up. It's interesting. There's a comment. I don't know if this is joking or if it's actually serious, talking about Trump's the new Hitler. But I was watching something this last week. If somebody were to say that, I would argue that you're not very educated on World War II and what actually happened. If you
Where's that
actually know
comment
the
at?
history, it's like two down from the
Well, read
top.
it. Read it because I'm not
It's
seeing
it
it.
says, quote, Trump is the new Hitler. It says right there. So if you go to the top and then you go one down where you
I
said
just don't
hi to
have
George
any of them, unfortunately. So tell me who wrote it.
Percival, Percavel. Yes.
Percival, he is our local troll. And I'm so glad you tuned in tonight, brother, because I
Hey,
love
how you
it when
doing?
you come on. Oh, so
Well, hey,
Trump is
it's
the
good.
new
You have the
Hitler.
right to express your opinion, but the problem is, if you actually look at the history of what happened, um, either you just don't know the history of
Or he's just
Germany, or
being a
you just don't
jackass.
care. Yeah, fine. Which you have the right to be. And see, this is the thing. Holly believes people have the right to speak. Doesn't make you
Absolutely.
right in what you're doing. There's no, I mean, there's just no comparison if you actually know what you're doing and take your time to study. But people have the right to express those opinions,
Well,
right?
that's the thing
So the
is
thing is, I
you
am the
can
police in
post
this
that.
country. Right. I am the police in this country. And during the Third Reich times, the police officers in the country didn't tolerate any kind of dissent at all. Nobody had the right for anything. I came and arrested you. I can tell you, as a police officer in this country, that's not the way that it works. Right. It's really not the way it works. I'm in it. So
That reminds me.
I
I want to
just-
get into your thoughts on the ICE attack with the vehicle. Now, how I say this, what I saw was different than what other people saw. At least the mainstream media is just riding this wave that where ICE shot that woman. It's interesting how have you heard about it?
oh, I've heard about it. I've seen every angle of the video.
Right.
But what I can tell you is this is nothing new, Holly. I
Yeah.
worked for the Portland Police Bureau for years, where the truth didn't slow anybody down. It
Well, yes,
was
and that's
well,
what
it,
people
it
need
was
to
it was
understand.
Right. So the thing is, here's what I'm going to tell you as far as what the United States Supreme Court has said about a police officer's right to defend themselves. It's a case called Graham versus Connor that covers basically everything, and it says, and this is the law, this is the requirement, which is that use of force, including the use of deadly force, is judged from the perception of a reasonable officer in that particular place and in that particular time without the benefit of hindsight.
Right.
That's the standard. If you actually believe in the rule of law in this country and the rule to be able to protect myself, there's really no argument to be made there in this particular one. The thing is, people are expressing their opinion. I'm going to tell you that you have the right to express your opinion, but whether that officer was allowed to do that or not, your opinion's irrelevant. The law has been established.
Legally, it might have been
Legally,
justified.
right?
Was it necessary? I mean, that's an argument among
Well,
people.
the thing is, we can make that
Justified,
argument.
but necessary. But I have to say, my father was
We call
dragged
it
by
lawful
a
but
car
awful.
when in his career, he was dragged so far that he didn't have the ability to reach his firearm, but he definitely could have killed that person who was about to kill him. And everybody thinks that, you know, this was an innocent woman driving down the road. No, this was a paid activist who was following ICE all day long, yelling, chanting, interfering with an investigation, which is already a crime. And they're trying to settle things. And my goodness, how the left has come out in celebration of how shitty our ICE officers are. And yet, look at how many hours in that day that this group was hounding ICE. And then for this woman to be in a 4,000-pound vehicle headed towards an ICE agent and to not get shot would be the bigger surprise to me. Do we want to see dead ICE agents because somebody doesn't like the policy of the Homeland Security, and so they've made it their mission to go hunt these people who are public servants, no different than your local police officer? Their job is to go collect the bad guys, or the people who've committed crimes in this country. That is their job.
Yeah. The thing is, I see this as not necessarily an ICE issue because I've been facing these things working in Oregon for as long as I can remember.
Well, this group is protesting ICE.
They're protesting ICE, but the same people protested the Portland police when there was a shooting in Northeast Portland 20 years ago. And we would come and do these just line by line presentations. The thing people don't understand is they don't care what the truth is. They'll use the word murder when they know that that's not accurate, or people are just emotional. What you need to understand is when someone with law enforcement authority is doing their duty, they have the right to protect themselves with deadly physical force, to protect themselves or somebody else from death or serious physical injury. It doesn't even have to be death. If it's your leg getting snapped, you can use deadly force to protect yourself. Do you agree with that? Maybe, maybe not. Have I had times where I could have used deadly force where I really didn't think I needed to, so I didn't? Sure. But we had similar instances. And the bottom line is there's going to be groups that the sad thing is that it's divided along party lines. And we had police officers. So I worked in Portland over the years with so many Democrats and officers that were members of the LGBTQ community. And we were all so different. We were the rainbow, all connected by one uniform. And when someone's coming after you and they're trying to harm you and you just have seconds to make a decision, nobody knows what that's like. But to set the stage, that's a no-win for anybody. And then to blame an officer who's reacting and doing what they have to do, to suggest that ICE officer wanted to go murder somebody. I mean, what kind of demented are you?
Well, let's talk too. Is when that's, as an officer, is in your mind of the actual danger you could be putting yourself and your family in by making that call that saves your life, it causes people to hesitate, and hesitation gets people killed.
Oh, I have seen
you have to
multiple friends of mine have been killed. And how are you okay? How are you okay with this? Like, I just don't, to me, it's not an immigration issue with everybody freaking out because they freaked out about cops doing other types of enforcement, doing the same thing. So essentially, the narrative is with these people that if the law enforcement that's being done in that time and place doesn't fit the popular politics according to them, then attack the police officers for carrying out their duty when they make a split-second decision. That's always been it. Right now, it's ICE raids, but it used to be back in the blocks when different things were going on. You just change the time and place in politics, and this group is always going to vilify the person who goes out to protect you. So when I was umpiring, I remember I had a conversation with somebody, and I started off umpiring Little League baseball, by the way, baseball and softball. So I really got good at working the bases by working big girls on a little diamond because they were so fast. So you had to get fast with them, right? And we were doing a district tournament, and in Little League, in a lot of the Little Leagues, it's umpired by volunteers, and if volunteers didn't umpire, you have no tournament. And a lot of times there are people who had teams playing right before that, and now they're umpiring, and you really depend on people's goodwill to try to create a fair game. And it was the neighboring town, and we're playing them, and I had went because I was the chief umpire for our Little League, and I had actually went to their Little League with a scheduled game and asked if they would send me umpires to mix in with the crew, and they didn't send us anybody. So what I was going to do is if we got one person, I was going to put that person on the plate and have the two umpires from our league on the bases. Or if they gave us two, I'd put them on the bases and one from our on the plate, right? Well, they sent us nobody. So we get about 2-3 innings into the game, and there's a call that people didn't like. And they start yelling, you guys are homering, you guys are dishonest. And I actually stopped the game and I said, is there anybody who's a trained umpire in the stands right now or who has enough knowledge about softball you'd like to come and help us and give us a third umpire? And they're silent. And I said, you guys are really good at sniping from the sidelines, but when it comes to actually putting your head down and doing the work to help the work go forward so all of our girls can have a great game, you're silent. I said, isn't that interesting? It's so easy to snipe from the sidelines when you got people in the arena that are doing the hard work. And I said, so absolutely nobody, because I contacted your league president and asked for umpires to help with the game, and you guys sent us nobody. So if you don't like the call, fine, but please do not suggest that we're dishonest in any way, because you guys could have helped. You just chose not to.
Well,
and if we weren't out here, the girls have no game. But that's what people are doing here.
That's law enforcement in a nutshell.
Who had to make a decision like that. And they're in the arena doing what they think is right and doing the hard stuff. And here you are, the elitist, carrying your sign and helping different people and really
getting in the way.
It's so easy to snip at the people who are doing the real work.
You know what? The mainstream media loved that first video that came out with that ice shooting, and they ran it everywhere, and it was this and that, and then it wasn't until that other angle came out, and thankfully that other angle came out almost immediately after when all this started. It takes me back to the George Floyd situation. When that first video showed up, I was disgusted.
It was hard to watch. It really was.
It was hard to watch, and I am obviously biased in law enforcement. My whole family's in law enforcement, like you. I have grown up
too, but it made me sick
heart.
too.
But let me tell you, a year later, I got to see the body cams of those officers. My whole perspective changed.
Right. The media didn't show you that. It was intentional.
No. And I understood
the look evidence intentionally.
One second. I didn't. I understood immediately Derek Chauvin's face and the way he was like sitting on his back. That is police procedure, by the way, or it was. And the way that he was looking like he was dealing with a 2-year-old having a fit. That look on his face wasn't dismissive of a man suffering. It was an exhausted person who had just been so kind and so good to this man. And he was complaining, I can't breathe, in the car. And so Derek Chauvin opens the windows. He opens the door. The guy wanted medical, so he calls medical. He's flopping around and fighting, so he has to lean on him. the perspective changed as soon as you got the whole story. And our national media lives for that first incident. They don't
I
live
would
to give you the
say
whole story.
I would say they live for whatever makes the police look the worst. The majority of them. I mean, unfortunately, because that's what sells. And if you look back in the day, let's go back to like 1962 in Mississippi, right? I think we can all agree in a lot of places, a black person had a really hard time getting a fair trial.
Absolutely.
It was just horrible, right? I don't care if you're black, white, green, man, woman, old, young, it doesn't matter when it gets to a point where somebody cannot get a fair trial in this country. And the jurors were threatened. They were intimidated into different opinions. And the thing is, being a police officer, there is a point where I think Derek Chauvin had enough experience where he should have done something differently. You had an exhausted police officer, and people don't want to hear this, who had a bad night. Like, he just should have made a different decision. It is
You had a guy
more.
who was dying of fentanyl overdose, and they don't tell you that either.
They didn't tell you that the actual cause of death wasn't that. He was literally convicted of a murder that he didn't do. He didn't die from, but none of that mattered because Derek Chauvin was going to be the sacrificial lamb. And if that's happening, then how are we any better than Mississippi back in the 60s?
We're not.
Like, it's never okay. It wasn't okay then. It's not okay now. So where do we
and for
how do we get to
a member of our black community in the 60s, you're right, couldn't get a fair trial. Now,
absolutely not.
In this day and age, I think it's not about black and white. I think it's about rich and poor. And I think it's hard for a poor person to get a fair trial compared to someone with money.
That's it. It's economic. That's exactly it.
And that shouldn't be. Again, what better system is there in the world? But that is a huge problem in our system. It is a huge problem in our system because it is the epitome of unfair, and how many people are locked up because they couldn't afford an expensive lawyer that would really take them to task and fight for your rights. And you've got these overwhelmed district attorneys and prosecutors. They're all overworked. Their caseloads are this high. And it's all about plea bargaining now. It's all about plea bargain, get them through. And someone who may be innocent and poor who wants to fight it and go to court, they can't. It's
really difficult. There's some really great public defenders that are out there, but they're overworked. It's very difficult. I really try hard as an investigator not to get it wrong, because I had a personal experience. My ex-wife was a child services caseworker in the state of Washington, and she and her husband before her had adopted 3 out of foster care over here from Utah before they moved to Washington. Unfortunately, one of those kids had some sexually predatory tendencies. And he had done things to a girl at school that basically would have been a sexual assault if he'd have been old enough, but he wasn't. So he got home and his mom paddled him, but good. And in the state of Washington, the thing is, I'm not arguing style of parenting. I've changed my mind over the years on whether corporal punishment's a good idea. That's another argument. But the bottom line is, in the state of Washington, you could actually leave marks on a kid as long as they're transitory, as long as they are not going to last for a long time. They go away fairly shortly, right?
So as long as they're on the butt, right? They can't be on the face or...
there's certain things that would definitely be an assault, but basically she paddled him in the butt, like upper leg area. There were transitory marks. Well, he knew it was coming because of what he did to this little girl, and he had made a plan with the school counselor to get his mother. So she ended up being arrested and charged with a felony, and she lost her job working for the state right away. Again, trying to protect the school and the little girl and the public from becoming a predator. Being a parent. right? And I got to see firsthand when the zealots get involved. So you had a child abuse team that was over there in Clark County, Washington. You had prosecutors and you had detectives and you had judges that were on the far, far left. And they couldn't have cared less what actually happened. Didn't matter. Had no problem destroying her life. And luckily, I had money saved up for my next business. The retainer for the attorney cost me $25,000 to hire the best guy in the state.
Yep, you guys.
That was right out of the gate, right?
That's
The whole
cash you
defense
hand
was
over and never see again.
right. So it was probably over 50. And in the end, she went through a ton. And by the way, I knew at that point that her and I were not going to make it, probably going to get a divorce, but I couldn't stand by and watch her go to prison for a crime that not only did she not commit it, what they were accusing her of wasn't even a crime, and the judge didn't care. I saw it from the other side. Right.
Yeah.
So if we wouldn't have had that extra ballpark 50 laying around, she would have went to prison for that.
And guys, think about it. How many of you have that extra ballpark laying around?
Right.
Very few.
And
very few people in this country.
Very few. So right. So people talk about it as a race issue. It's really not. I've worked in law enforcement for almost 30 years now. It is do I have the money for the shark issue? And thank God that he existed, because he had the relationships and the respect and the ability to navigate her through without that felony conviction. But he wasn't overwhelmed with cases. He actually told me, he interviewed us. And I said, okay, where do I give you the money? Because I knew he was the best in the state. And he said, oh, hold on. I haven't said that I'm going to take the case yet. And I said, really? Even if I pay the 25? And he said, really? And he said, I need to talk to your wife. He said, and I need to like her, and I need to believe that she is worth fighting for.
Right. It's his reputation too.
Right. And I said, really? You don't just, and he said, I only defend people that I think are worth it. I only defend good people that I really believe are good people. And I said, I have earned the right with my skill level to choose who my clients are. And if I think they should rot, I'm not representing them. That's exactly what he said. And
wow.
So I brought her in and I'm like, be nice. be nice, please.
Well, that's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it is true. It is a world where financially, I think people and Black communities who think they're not getting a fair trial because they're Black, I don't think that's it. I think it is about financial gains. Yep. Right. And it happens to white people too. And it's a tough time. But as soon as you're saying, screw the police or defund the police, what you're doing, and remember, George Floyd happened in Minnesota. And shocker. Remember Tim Waltz, his wife, saying that she opened the windows so she could smell the burn during the protests. That is so
the burning
crazy.
Of the police stations?
The burning of the city that they were burning down. You remember the Summer of Love in 2020 where people were going insane and, so many people died. And how do you say that as a governor's wife? You're smelling the burn of your local businesses, of these people who have spent their livelihoods to build businesses in cities. And these are members of the Black community. And these neighborhoods are Black neighborhoods.
They're burning Black businesses.
It's
like it was
horrendous.
It was crazy, right? And it is so, this. So imagine growing up in the projects and scraping up enough money to start a business and maybe a few investors and that kind of thing. And you get to a point where you've had something for maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you're really starting to do well. And you're that example. And then all of that blows up and burns your business out, right? I just don't.
And they're saying eliminate the police. So now if you have any hardship in your neighborhood, no one's coming.
That's right. The thing is that's what happens with the police officers is if they don't. So it's interesting. My question that I would ask people is, do the police feel safe in your community? And I don't mean physically safe. People, the police are willing to take the physical risk. What I know, because I've known a lot of cops over the years, is if in the community they don't trust you not to come after them if they've done the right thing, then they will pull back and only do what they're required to do. The good hard work of chasing around the criminal element comes from the heart.
Right.
of those street
Fire
cops
inside of them.
that care about you. And if the police really believe that you're going to let them burn if they've done the right thing, then what they're going to do is pull back. They're going to answer their 911 calls, and they're going to do what they are by policy and legally required to do, because that's the best way to protect themselves, right? So the question in every community you should be asking yourself is, do the police trust you? And here's another thing that you may not like hearing, but again, your opinions are relevant. This is just reality. You can say your opinion, but facts are what they are, and that is this. I have a young friend who is not that young anymore. Name is Anthony. He's also a former pro umpire. He's kind of from Utah and kind of from the San Diego area, like a mom and a dad, right?
Mhm.
And so he went to work for San Diego PD. He got hurt. He got too many concussions in the minor leagues, and he couldn't advance anymore because he just physically couldn't do it. So he became a police officer in San Diego. He is everything the diverse community is looking for. He is multilingual. He is Hispanic. He is all of the things that they're targeting to hire. Super smart, educated, all of it. So I was still speaking back then. So I met him for dinner when I was speaking down in San Diego. And I just asked him to tell me all about it. Like, how is it going? And he said, it's horrible here. And I said, what do you mean? He said the way the city treats its San Diego police officers, they don't deserve good police officers. That's what he said. And you know what he did? He left about 6 months later and went to a different community. So here's the thing that people in these cities don't understand. You need those officers. They really do not need you. There is more of a demand for cops than there are cops to meet the demand. If you piss them off, they're going to leave. It's as simple as that. So what happens when the varsity isn't coming and applying, or they're leading in your city? Guess what? You get the freshman team. Do you want the freshman team out policing you? Because that's
and
what
you're
working
paying
toward.
you're paying for those people to be
A
trained
ton.
and started, and then they leave the
it's
second something better comes
crazy.
along because they're not being
Right.
treated well in that city. And my father was in West Valley City, which was one of the most dangerous cities in Utah, but he loved the community there. And
Yes,
that's
that's
something
right.
you're absolutely right. When you've got a community who takes good care of their law enforcement, you've got county councils, city councils that value law
Right.
enforcement, and they're putting a lot of resources into it. You have a happy officer, and an officer will stay. My father stayed 40 years
Right.
in
Don't
the
you want
field.
the best cops? Don't you know, when I first started to go into police work, it was for Portland, it was one applicant got hired for every 200 applications.
That was me
That's
when
how
I was
hard
testing
it
as well.
was. Yeah, that's how hard it was to get in, right? Well, don't you want your best people with that authority? You realize that all of this activity, there's a lot of good people right now. They're like, screw that, I'm not doing law enforcement.
The last 2 years, Post hasn't been full for the first time in I don't know how long.
It's insane.
It's crazy, but it makes sense. And if when my brother's in law enforcement in Utah, I was happy. When he moved back east, I was terrified he'd go into law enforcement because it's a different game, a different
Mhm.
world.
That's right. Do you know how
And
much? Yeah, it's crazy. So now in like Seattle and Portland, they're paying cops a ton of money,
they have to.
and they're getting very little service for that, because not only are the officers trying to protect themselves, but then the city wants depolicing. So
The city doesn't back them on anything. I mean, they're burning
no,
down a police department in
no.
real time, and the city doesn't want to get involved. And I think New York is going to see that too. The biggest police department in the country is NYPD. And when you have mayors that disrespect them or turn on them, or commissioners that do that, you see
Right.
it. And they didn't have they're not fully staffed in NYPD.
Oh, and
And
they're
then
going to be
look
way off of
at
that.
who
Yeah.
Mondani is putting over the fire department, the fire chief. Like, they're hitting all the DEI, they're hitting all this stuff with DEI, but you're talking about the biggest, best police force in the country, NYPD, the most
Yep, I
resources
just want the best people.
with everything, and they can't even fill the slots. And a lot are retiring because of they know what's coming with a guy like Mondani.
Yeah, Mamdani, right. Well, I'll tell you, Florida's getting some great cops. There's
Oh
a whole lot of NYPD people moving down to Florida right now. They're getting some of
Well,
the best and the brightest. And
during
don't get me
COVID,
wrong.
during
When there's
COVID, that's
bad
what the
cops-
governor reached out to them all and said, if you want to work in Florida, we want you. If you're a good cop, come here. I know of two that left Utah to go to Florida and never looked back. DeSantis
Isn't
knows
that?
what he's doing with law enforcement.
Hmm. That's right.
But all the
That is
craziest
that.
cases come from Florida, though. You ever notice?
Well, I mean,
There's some
you got Sheriff
crazy
Grady that comes and
cases.
tells us about them. So
Oh,
maybe
it's
there's the
cool.
crazy cases everywhere, but you got Sheriff Grady telling you all the details
Well,
in
do we have
Florida,
any
right?
other comments on the YouTube channel that I don't see?
I'm only seeing the chat from here.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
was
don't
able
have
to
the chat in
find.
front of me, so that's what I'm looking at. And I'm looking at Facebook as well, and it looks like we're covered. But oh, here we
Okay.
go.
Do you see a new one?
Oh, yeah. So it looks like William said, one second, this is why I believe we should have been. I'd like to add the American history is very rich and interesting. And
It
then there's
is.
Percival, Trump is the new Hitler.
Yes,
Percival,
you
I don't
found that,
think you
right?
know who Hitler was or what he did. But if Trump is a dictator, he's horrible at it. I'm just going to say
Yeah.
he's terrible at it. And he's spending his own money to do stuff. Like everybody's
Yeah.
so mad at Trump. You know, he's a horrible dictator and he does have checks and balances. And he, just because he's fighting for America, I love it. I don't want to be in other countries. I think that if we can do it where we empower the people themselves to take their country back, I love it. I love it so much. And if he wants Greenland, at least he's proposing buying it. And if we look back in
Yeah.
history, the Louisiana Purchase was made and they didn't get congressional approval. In fact, when that was
Just bought
made,
it.
you would look back now and go, wow, can you imagine if Jefferson didn't make the purchase or that the government didn't decide to buy Louisiana? What about the purchase for Alaska? I mean,
Yeah.
huge purpose for our country to
Well, you
grow
think
us.
about the defense, and the thing is, so many people want things to be nice and pretty all the time, but that's not reality. There's hard decisions that have to be made. I mean, I wish that things were easy, and I wish everybody was peaceable. I mean, I wish being nice to all of the criminal element really worked, but if you haven't ever looked a hardcore biker in the eye and seen violence in their eyes, you
The
know,
only bikers I know are all part of the defend child abuse people, and I'm
oh,
like,
those guys are great.
oh, they're like
They're
bikers
grizzled,
with
but
a
they're the
heart of
sweetest
gold.
men.
But biker
They do.
gangs, I don't think people realize, or some of these gangs coming out of South America, it's a really, you know what, people like you though have to see the darkest of the dark. People like me
We
get the
do.
beauty of not having to see that and
Well, that's
mistrust
right.
everything around you, right? That's how you know you have great law enforcement, is that you don't have to see the darkest of the dark or
That's right.
experience that personally. Whereas if you talk to people that are immigrants here from Southern America, gangs are a real thing and they're
Oh,
terrifying.
they are. And when you get too soft, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is the streets are going to be controlled by somebody.
Yep.
If you're the public, and the thing is, the police can only control the streets with the consent of the public. So you look like in Portland, Oregon, over the years, we would have at night maybe 72 officers for the entire city of like 500,000 people. No, 700,000, 675, 700,000, right? The bottom line is with 72 cops, you're not going to control that city if the people don't want to be controlled. You just can't, right?
That
But for
city has
many, many
become something
years,
so different, hasn't
yes,
it?
it has. But for many years, we controlled the districts. Why? Because the people wanted us to control the districts. The gangs didn't control the districts. We controlled the districts because the people wanted us to control the districts. And the moment that people don't want the police to control the city anymore, you won't. But if you are so incredibly naive, if you don't think somebody's not going to fill that vacuum,
Absolutely
right?
will.
Here in Utah right now, there are a lot of neighborhoods with immigrants that are controlled by the cartels. They are. Doesn't matter if you like that answer. That's just the way it works, right? If you depolice an area, somebody's going to control those streets. But I will tell you this, Holly. I've been doing this a long time, and I don't mistrust everybody anymore. I've actually come out of it trusting people more. I really believe that there's a lot more good people than not good people. And I'll tell you one story that I think really typifies this. So I worked the same area in North Portland for a long time. And I knew everybody. I knew the mothers, the fathers, the grandmothers, grandfathers, the kids. I knew the gangsters. I knew the parents. I would frequently get texts like from a gangster's mom that says, Kevin, I don't know what to do. He's going down the wrong road. Now his gangster friends are threatening me. And I would meet and we would figure it out together. Right. Same neighborhood. And I had a trainee, but he was a gang division officer with another city that came to us. And we're going down the street. It's about 72 degrees outside. And we were hunting for criminals, which we used to do, like people committing actual crime, bothering the neighborhood. And we see a gentleman walking down the middle of the street. He had on a coat that was way too heavy for the weather. The coat was pulling down to one side a little bit, looked like he probably had a firearm in there from the weight.
That was one of my dad's number one things in West Valley. On-view arrests, that he actually on-view felonies. He was the leader in West Valley City for so many years because he just paid attention.
Right. Pay attention, right? So the thing is, he was black. Do we care? No. But what we do care about is that it's mannerism. So as soon as he saw the police car, he immediately looks away quickly. And then he steps over toward the sidewalk, doesn't want to look at us. So you've got clothing that's too heavy for the time, right? Possible fire. So these are articulable factors. So we make a reasonable suspicion stop, which was judged by the courts later to be completely legal, right? We had articulable factors, had nothing to do with color. So anyway, we contact this guy and he doesn't want to be contacted. So as soon as we went to grab him up and pat him down, fight was on, and then he takes off running. And the other officer ended up a little bit ahead of me. He was like 3 steps ahead of me. And the guy was, he was trying to pull a 45, but it got hung up on his clothing, right? So by the time he got it and started to spin, Charlie had caught up to him and he hit him in a baseball tackle so hard, the 45 went flying and his gold grill went flying the other way. I kid you not. So the gold grill bounced on the ground, the 45 bounces on the ground. And it ends up about 5 feet from him. And as he goes down to the ground, I did a baseball slide and basically ripped up my pants and my leg. And then I come out with my gun right on him. And he looked up and all I said was, do not. And he didn't. And we took him into custody and he didn't want to be. Well, when we did that, there was a group of gangsters that came out and started to surround us. And we'd already called for cover, but the sirens are coming and they're probably 3 minutes away. And 3 minutes may sound close, but it's really not that close.
When seconds matter, 3 minutes is forever.
Seconds matter, right? And they started to surround us, and then something happened. And this is the kind of thing that can happen in this country. I swear to you it can. The black community came pouring out of their houses, not to hurt us. They surrounded us. 2 white cops in a black neighborhood that had just been fighting with a black man. And they surrounded us. And they protected us until our cover got there. And I knew all of them. I knew all of them by first name. And we weren't the black community and the white cop. I was Kevin, and I was their policeman, and they were my people, right? So we were one with one another. And it's that connectivity that's missing. That's what's missing in police work right now is the community-oriented. So we have this, like I hear all this, we're doing community policing because they do stuff that goes on Facebook and that's a buzzword. You have no idea what community policing actually is. Community policing is having the same cops in the neighborhood every day that know the people, that earn the trust, where everybody knows each other's first names, right? So they protected us. And they say that they could, white cops, the community can never get along. That's garbage, right? And I lost almost all of my equipment. So one of the people came up carrying all of my equipment, right? And when it was done, there was hugs everywhere, right? So that's my experience in the blocks.
I mean, that's
a little
great.
Different, right? So I have a lot of hope. I think the problem between the police and the community, I think everybody's missing it. We've gone away from old school community policing that doesn't make the headlines. We've lost our connectivity. So we're not at that deeper level in the blocks because whether I made mistakes, I wasn't always right, but people didn't file IA complaints. You know why? Because they had my cell phone number. They called me. So if they were pissed at me, we would go out for a soda and they'd yell right at me.
Well, that's the
right?
thing
And we could
about
talk
small
about it.
communities and then getting into big communities. And then you have to back it up by your administration. That's so important. And
Yeah.
so that the officers are getting support there. But I could not agree more about community oriented policing. And again, my father brought that to West Valley City. And
He brought it to West Valley,
it
right?
was a huge, huge thing because he was in the worst part of the city and the community wanted it turned around.
Mhm.
And this worked perfect. In fact, there's black and whites in West Valley because my dad was such a huge advocate for the black and whites, and that was used to be the COP units. And so he would be in these communities and they all knew him by name and he knew their kids and he knew them.
That's the thing. The
And he was
trust.
able, with his partners and stuff, to change parts of West Valley that were the
Mhm.
worst of the worst. Harvey Street, for
Yeah.
example, worst street on the planet. And I think the street was eventually bulldozed and new stuff came in. But if he didn't have the support of his chief and the chief had the support of the council in that city, I mean, it would have never happened. And yet my stepmothers, he was married twice, both were police officers, both worked in COP units, and they were beloved by the community.
Yep.
And that to
Yeah.
me is absolutely right. Even in a big city, you can have that. And I wish for
Oh,
that for
oh,
all
of course.
communities to
Of
have
course.
that.
So I hear in Utah, because I'm going to tell you, and this may make some people not happy in the valley, like in the Salt Lake Valley, most of the administrators have no idea what community policing is. None. They're not even
Probably
close
fair.
to it. And in my opinion, they're not even trying. They're trying to do buzzword community policing. They want it to appear like they're doing community policing. So my first question is, do you know the names of the people in the neighborhood? Do they know you? No, well, then you're not doing community policing. I don't care what you put on your Facebook page,
Right.
right?
It's the experience,
If people, yeah,
if their experience with these citizens is positive, I mean, you won't have officers who pause in a situation. You have
right.
officers that will go where they need to go. They will do what they need to do because they know little Johnny since he was a kid and now he's a teenager and he's gotten into the wrong
Mhm.
crowd, but they know the crowd and they know the
Mhm.
parents of little Johnny. And
That's
you know
right.
what? I remember my father telling me stories of some people. We had a big Polynesian element when I was in high school over there in Granger High School. And the number one thing that he had to do when he had stopped a teenager in trouble is it wasn't threaten them with jail. It was threaten to call your mother. He knew
Oh,
their
that was
mothers. And
in the black
they would
communities,
be
call the grandma.
begging, call my father. Don't call my mother. Don't call my mother. And
Oh,
it,
yes.
it was a big issue. And that to me tells me we're still a small enough community where that still is, when you're worried about your mom showing up, it's like, no,
Oh,
just
it's
take me to
great.
jail. Just take me to
It's
jail. And that's
great.
important, guys. We need accountability for our kids, and we also need support for our law enforcement. But when law enforcement messes with that trust,
Mhm.
there is no one that hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Oh, that's you know what? People think that like you cover for people. No, no,
No,
nope,
that spreads like
nope.
a virus and it gets people killed.
No, no.
No,
There are people every once in a while, and it really, really is rare. You got to remember to get hired as a cop, you've got to go through a full background investigation. You got to go through a psych. They find out like everything about you. You have these people, oh, the cops, there's good and bad and everything. No, not in the same degree. The majority of Americans, as much as I love you, you simply have not conducted your life in a good enough way to pass a police background. You just haven't. I love you, but you haven't, right? So there are percentage wise very, 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 very few like really wrong cops. We are getting some people though that are getting through in applications because we don't have enough of an applicant pool that are well-meaning, but they don't think as quick as the group used to think. They're doing their best. They really are. They're well-meaning. They're really good people, right?
but
But
they
they're not
need
having to
training.
compete against 199 other people for the job, right?
It's true, guys. The pool
So
used to be insane. You'd go and test, and there'd be
it was
1,000
so
people
hard
there
to get hired.
for 20
So I
seats.
mean, we had, yeah, it was crazy, like how good people used to be. But our job now is if they're willing and they're hired, our job is to bring them up to where to where they need to be. But I still have a lot of hope, like for everything and for humanity standing up for what's right. And I remember kicking in doors like during fires and knowing the name of every single member of that family and screaming for them, right? And recognizing their voice. You talked about shepherd and sheep. Well, in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I remember shaking later because I didn't know if the floor of the complex was gonna fold under me, but you know what? I'm proud of that. Like I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. And the fracturing in the country just hurts me
Well, how about
because it just doesn't have to be.
how Portland has evolved?
It just makes me sad. That
It's
was
sad.
an amazing city that we were so proud
It was a
to be
beautiful
with our community and policing. And people used to come there and visit, and it was lovely. And now Portland is a place that anybody in their right mind avoids.
Yeah, they don't go
because
there after
it's a
dark,
shithole.
especially.
That's a shithole. I mean, there's no two ways about that. I've got a bunch of friends that are stuck. So this is a friend of mine that's a lieutenant there, and he says it's awful, Kevin. It's awful. It's awful. He said
That's
it's
too
horrible.
bad.
But it's like golden handcuffs. He said I make so much money as a lieutenant that I wouldn't even think about doing something else. But he said I'm sick to my stomach every day I come to work. And him and I,
It's counting down
we
to
worked
retirement.
He's got 7 years. I
Wow.
mean,
That can be forever.
it's going to be a long time. We knew the dope dealers. We knew who was bringing it in, when they were bringing it in, what house they were cutting it in, who was going to distribute it. It was just whether we had the call load and the time to go address it, right? We knew who was doing what to who. We knew who was fencing everything because you're connected, right?
Well, and
So
on that note, we are past our time. Normally we shut down at 8,
we've been
but this
having a
has
great time.
been easy, right? Not too scary for being on the podcast with me.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's really been, I feel like you kind of wound me up. Like I'm like this toy that like you spun the back of it or you pulled my string and then away we went.
Kevin, I can't thank you enough for your determination and for your bravery to serve in the capacity that I asked you to. I know it was a shock to you, and I am so forever grateful for your willingness, and because I know you're going to do great and you're going to take what I've built with many other people that are part of this, and you're going to bring it forward and make it your own and better. And I just hope that all of you that are members of our party can sleep well knowing that it's in good hands. And Kevin and I are very good friends, and I will help him in any possible way I can. I believe in it. I've put 9 years into it because I fully believe in it. And I saw that same passion in Kevin when I asked him to run with me as my vice chair this last time. I never thought when we ran, I never, ever thought that I would be running for office so quickly. So it was a shock to you and me. And it was with a lot of prayer that I even thought about taking this run. And my thoughts are because I think I can do great. And I think I can add to what Bridger has done, not to replace Bridger by any means, because he is amazing, but just to add something different and some different perspective and energy and to just keep it going, because I think we've got great representation in District 29. And I want to continue with that and work for the people. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I know that you didn't expect this either. And we're in this together, and we have been since you've begun. And it's never an I thing. You can be a party chair, but you never are alone. And I feel honored to be part of a group of not just my leadership team, but of my voters and my friends and the electeds that have made our party so special. And when people say, man, your county's in such good shape, or you're such a good party chair, I feel like but it's not me. It's not me
it's with
by
help,
myself.
right? We don't do anything by ourselves.
Right. It's a
We
community
accomplish
effort.
like this much.
And it's all volunteers that are willing to give their same energy and time. And, I feel blessed that I was trusted with the seat for so long. And, I am running for this office to win. And if for some reason I do not, my involvement, engagement in the party will not stop. I will work just as hard as I can to help our electeds get their message out, and for candidates to run for seats, and for number one, the voice of our people is getting through to the elected, so that their voices are never ignored. And I feel like that's probably why my biggest problem with the school board is that they
Yep.
were blatantly ignored. Blatantly.
That is what really got my ire up. Was I don't like the taxes being raised, but it was the fact that they thought they could ignore their voters. Just blatantly so. I mean, I don't know what part of the voters aren't asking they weren't getting. But basically, your bosses told you no. I don't know where else you can go where your bosses tell you no and you just do it anyway, where you keep your job.
Absolutely.
You know. Anyway,
And they know
I
better.
appreciate
And
the
then
kind.
look at what they're getting paid. Look at the payments that we're paying for those staff that is chosen to run our schools and everything. And then look at what your average salary is in this county. And
Yeah,
it's really tough. It's really tough for people to swallow that this is the best we can get. So
yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words. It took me a couple of days to warm up to it, but this is a tremendous blessing for me to be able to work with so many wonderful people. I've had so many great conversations like this last week, and the ability to the comments are so nice. For the ability to just dig in and to make myself better, and to take what I've learned and actually have an opportunity to use it to help people has been amazing. I wanted to say, so William, thank you so much for the kind words, and so many of you with the thank yous. And this is really going to be a neat ride, and I'm looking forward to taking it together with so many people. So thank you, everybody, and for the wonderful comments. And it's always wonderful to spend time with you. Although everybody needs to know that as now the party chair, when it comes to multiple candidates in a race, as much as somebody may be my friend, we really are neutral, and we really do give everybody the equal support that we're supposed to.
And we're planning that as well. We're inviting all the candidates on here, and even the ones in my race. And, especially the ones in my race, I'd like to get to know them and see what they're going to do. Everybody, go to one of these caucus trainings. The first one's going to be on the 31st, January, correct? Go to the caucus training at the high school. It's on a Saturday. Go in the morning. Bring your kids. Just to learn, just to get the civics of it all and learn what the process is going to be. If your caucus doesn't have a host, if say there's no one to host the meeting, reach out to our secretary and tell her you'll be willing to host, and then go to these trainings and run for something and go to these. And then remember, caucus is on March 17th in your local high school or junior high or wherever the place is. Go attend, and really, if there's candidates that you really like and you want to support, go run and tell your community about them in that meeting. Tell them what you like about the person running and what you think the values of you and this county and your county specifically are. Because once you get your voice out there and you tell the delegate that's going to represent your voice, then hopefully they'll choose candidates that do that. And we will have a better government. So, Kevin, my best
What a
to you and
pleasure.
your family, the lovely wife, please give her my best. And to all of you that tuned in tonight, or that are future people going to tune in later, which tends to be the case, thank you for your support. Thank you, KMMU, for your support. And we will see you next week with hopefully Jared, because he should maybe not be working, but I love him. I'm grateful for him. And I know his job is very grateful that he can come in on call like that. So good night, everybody. Say good night, Kevin.
Have a great night. So nice to meet so many of you. Bye.
Bye.